Yes.
basically.
Yes.
I was just wondering if you could possibly do a short extract. We have a fascinating game, but it'd be great.
I was dying for you to ask.
Yeah.
I'll do the first moments of the play. And those of you who know the book, basically it takes place on this ocean liner where a young man is playing a game of chess against the greatest chess player in the world, who does not sit at the board. He leaves the board after he moves as an act of intimidation. And the young player is about to make a move, and a voice comes out of nowhere, coaching him. So we'll do just the beginning of it, and tell me when to stop.
Should we vacate the stage?
No.
I don't.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So we're in black, and when you hear the first line, the lights come up. I say, "Good God, don't make that move!" What? Not the queen. His bishop will take him immediately on b1. Oh, then your knight takes his bishop, but then his free pawn can move to d7 and threaten your rook. And even if you check with your knight, you lose in 9 moves. Ha! It's like the combination used by Alekhine versus Bogolyubov, Pistian 1922. What? Who? Alekhine versus Bogolyubov, greatest players of their day. Grand Tournament 1922, unforgettable. Oh, yeah, well, this is not 1922, this is 1942. Oh, yeah, I'm aware. And this is not Pistian, yeah, I'm aware. This is the SS Algonquin, and I'm not playing Bogolyubov. Yeah, him. I'm playing Mirko Centrovic. Ah, who? Oh, Mirko Centrovic, the greatest player of our day. Ah, it must be from after my time. I'm only familiar with the classic matches. Good, well, thank you, but not the queen. No, suicide. Well, what would you do? Don't advance, not yet. Move evasively. Most important, get your king out of that dangerous lane, gh to h7. Then he counters his attack, and you move. You counter with your rook, c8 to c4. That will cost him 2 tempi. A pawn on the advantage. And if you maintain a proper defense, you should manage a draw. That is your best hope. A draw? Yeah, not to win. That possibility is past. So there's a bit of it.
Well done.
All right? Fantastic. And I totally confess I'm messing up the pronunciations of the two chess masters. I was coached as to how they were pronounced, and then last night I was told, no, it's completely wrong. What is it? Is it Bogolyubov?
Bogolyubov. But there are various pronunciations, actually.
Yeah. And it's not Alekhine, it's is it?
Alyokhin.
Alyokhin.
The thing is, I butcher pronunciations the whole time.
So
it's also Alekhine,
mea culpa,
depending on the country.
So
yes.
Listen,
great job.
Absolutely fantastic. So, quick reminder, it's The Chess Player, and it's on at the Tristan Bates Theatre here in the West End, and runs till Saturday. I hope to get there on Saturday.
I hope you come.
Can't wait.
Yeah, yes. Saturday is a free day, so we all invite you to the theatre.
It's a 6 o'clock show, hour and 20 minutes long, so you can get back to the bar afterwards. So.
By the way, one of the main characters in it, Mirko Centrovic, initials MC.
Oh.
I'm just saying, Magnus Carlsen. Scary, very scary. Okay, listen, Richard, thank you so much for joining us. It's been brilliant.
It's an honor to be here with you all, and I'm delighted to sip from the cup of this tournament. We were in the other room watching, and I was almost wanting to stay to watch as opposed to come and do this interview. It's an exciting point in the game, it looks.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks.
That has been a really impressive performance. And just a reminder, the play is called The Chess Player. There must be similarities between, of course, the characters from the novel, Stefan Zweig's famous novel, The Royal Game, and the players we are observing here. Hopefully just the positive traits. Judith, how do you see it?
I'm sure it's a very interesting performance by Richard. It was impressive that he just gave a little show to us. And it's very impressive that he plays so many characters.
All the characters from the book.
In a one-man show. But here we have a two-man show, right?
Yeah, and what's happening in our two-man show? Because so many moves and it's such a dynamic, complex position that we need to analyze each and every turn.
And here we had a few moves since I left. After bishop e6, so after all, queen c7 was made by Fabiano, even though he was spending a few minutes on this. After that, black took on c7, took, and knight c6. And I was also checking while you still had the guest on, Richard, here, that I was telling d4 as an option. And then I also started to see this c3 move, which was played by Fabiano. Of course, it has to be, I'm pretty sure that Fabiano is still in his home preparation. It's only move 17, but it was all these...
It's only move 17, of course. We all do this in our games.
Not all games, but somehow I have the feeling that it was kind of forced,
yes.
you know?
It's a very forcing line.
And also the reason I'm saying this, because this c3 is not necessarily an obvious move that it's good. The main idea is not necessarily to exchange the pawn on b4, but mainly to control the center and play d4 in the next move. In other hand, it seems to be a dangerous decision because black can go b3 and have his own passed pawn, and white is still not developed with his piece on b1 and cannot be so proud of the bishop on a1. But the a1 bishop is still a very supportive piece in white's position, where I think white would be going d4 immediately with the threat of d5. And it seems like not so easy for black. He's kind of in time trouble. He's late with things because his king would be already great to have it on d7, but for the moment he cannot do this because of the immediate material loss because of d5. So if black would be taking on d4, then either c takes d4 or knight d4 is also something to consider. Probably I would take with the pawn, and now black can go king d7, because if white would be pushing the pawn to d5, then suddenly bishop a1. So it would be grabbed. This is not advice from white point of view. Probably white would be going knight d2 or knight c3. I think, and white's center is incredibly strong, so white is planning to play d5. Well, of course, black can go knight b4, so it's there is a lot to be considering. It's just what I want to say, that b3 is something very seriously to be considered from black side. If black would be going king d7, then actually I would believe that c takes b4 would be the move, not necessarily d4 immediately, because knight cannot take this back, because white would be grabbing the e5 pawn, which is essential for black's defense. And if, let's say, black would be moving, activate his rook to a8, then I think white will have to bring his bishop to c3. Otherwise, if knight c3, then knight takes b4 would be not something I would like to deal with if I'm white. And then knight d3 is a threat, but moreover, knight c2 is a serious threat, so white cannot play bishop b2 because of knight d3, unpleasant double attack. So it's still pretty forcing, very concrete disposition after c3. Well, at first, of course, black wants to go b3. That's the first intention you want to do, but it can be slow. And Fabiano did not spend too much time up to this point. He's spending practically, what, less than 20 minutes?
Yes, he has used 12 minutes from
Yeah,
the initial
plus the-
140
plus the
and the
extra
increment.
30 seconds,
Indeed,
so that's
because
9
he
minutes.
was collecting
Yeah.
time at the beginning. Just a reminder, the time control is 1 hour and 40 minutes. And after move 40, they get an additional 50 minutes. After move 60, an extra 15 minutes. And there's a half a minute increment from move 1 on. That's how Fabiano had more time at the beginning than how he started the game.
There is another option to play b takes c3. This we did not consider yet, because at first it's not so tempting to play for black b takes c3, giving the opportunity for white immediately to develop by taking a pawn. So after knight c3, king d7, let's say, And now I think knight d5 can be played, or even knight... though I'm not sure. If knight d5, let's say bishop takes d5, pawn takes, knight d4, knight e5. Yeah, everything is concrete. And after knight d5, it is important that black cannot go rook a8 because of a check. So you have all these unpleasant knight moves. So actually, this is the time that I tell the story and finish the story which I started 2 days ago.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you to do so.
Yeah, because it came to my mind after this knight b6.
We were interrupted.
Yeah. The thing is that I played in this rapid tournament in Norway, and I was preparing against Magnus. And I was preparing...
Which year it was, the tournament?
2010, maybe. And I was preparing, my husband was joining me, and I was telling him, well, I don't know what to do against Magnus. But I was checking his games continuously. I was checking his games, if I have a feeling for it, where can I catch Magnus, what is the weak spot of his play. And then at one point I figured out, and I told my husband, you know what, I have one strategy, I will eliminate his knights.
Eliminate his knights.
Eliminate, so I want to exchange his knights. This was the only strategy I had during the game. I was playing with the black pieces, and I could exchange the knight. And it was easy. I had a much better position, actually. I almost won, but at the end it was
Is
a
that
draw.
the secret?
So
have you talked to Team Fabiano already?
No.
This confidential piece of information, how to beat Magnus Carlsen, or how to make a draw at least.
This was in game 4 when I saw that the knights are having an off day before the off day.
He still has a knight. This is a danger zone.
Well, now white's knights are more difficult to handle and deal with. But this was this is not a very professional attitude and preparation against the world champion or the best player. He was at the time already #1 player, I think, when I played with him, but it worked once.
How did you come up with this conclusion? I'm wondering.
I don't know. Somehow I was looking his games in those times, and I had the feeling that he's always jumping around where you don't want him to be jumping around. And
Get rid of the knights.
Get rid of the knights, and then somehow he couldn't work it out with the bishops.
Oh, wow, interesting to know. We are going to discuss Magnus Carlsen and his minor piece play soon after this very short break. Magnus Carlsen, the knights, the knight play. There's a c6 knight that can still cause trouble, but as you pointed out, Judith, Fabiano has 2 knights. Will it make the big difference in this game and get us a decisive result?
We'll see. This is the big question, whether we are going to see a decisive game in game 5. And King d7 was just played. So King d7 was the decision-developing move with the king. It's very important, not necessarily the only importance of this move to capture the c7 pawn, but I think moreover to get activity by black's rook on a8. That's what the dream is of black, I believe. So d4 or cb4, this is the big question here. But I think d4 would be, or could be, slow, as immediately black would be attacking the bishop on a1. White has to go knight b d2 to defend the bishop with the rook from e1. And then I think black can go b takes c3, and white is not in time, because for the moment d5 is not possible, because the d2, well, actually, maybe it is, but I don't think it's going to be good enough for white. If the knight has to move back to d2, it gives away the tension to be attacked the e5 pawn. So it's not good enough, and if white would take back on c3, then suddenly e takes d4 and black takes over because white is in trouble. So that's why I think d4 is not possible. So kind of cb4 seems to be the only move. That is exactly what I'm expecting. Because after d4, rook a8, if white has to go bishop b2, again wasting a tempo, rook a2 or b takes c3, but we have cb4 on the board.
Judith is always right, so if she said that c takes b4 was the only move, that's the truth, it's on the board.
Well, it was kind of obvious that you want to get rid of that pawn. You don't want to allow tactical ideas for black. So now the question is whether rook a8, immediately to active play of black, or what about taking back the pawn? If, let's say, black takes back the pawn, even now. So actually, at this point, white has 2 pawns up, which is, of course, not going to last for too long, only for seconds probably, until Magnus is going to make his reply.
He's going to take one of the pawns, and then there will still be oh, no, it's
Rook
still
A8.
temporarily 2 pawns up for white because Magnus Carlsen chooses the initiative, bringing his rook with a tempo.
Absolutely. You see that, of course, Magnus is also one of the players who loves initiative. He loves to catch and grab the initiative in the first possible moment of the game. And as we see that, actually, this is something that top players really love. Some players more, some players less. But in Magnus' case, I think it's very clear that whenever he has the opportunity, you see, even he has 2 pawns down for the moment. He's just not wasting his time taking back any of the pawns. He wants to take over in attacking white's piece and somehow manage it in a way that he has some dynamic play from the black side.
It's interesting to think that he has managed to sacrifice these 2 pawns when he started out with an extra pawn from the opening. This b4 pawn sacrifice was played by Fabiano. And then Magnus simply decided that he would react in the most dynamic way and started giving back the pawn and then sacrificing even more pawns.
Well, this is usually the case when you want to get initiative. It means you have to be faster. In order to be faster reaching to any square or any plan that you want to reach, sometimes you can do it without paying anything, but sometimes you have to pay a pawn, 2 pawns, pieces, or anything like that. And here the cost was 2 pawns for the moment, which, of course, 1 pawn will be, of course, taken back very fast. The idea is, I think, for black that it's not so easy for white to develop properly with his putting it in the right square, the b1 knight and the a1 bishop. So for the moment, if, let's say, the most inviting knight c3 would be played by white, this way defending the a1 bishop, the knight would be cutting the power of the bishop from a1 to e5, so black could be taking the b4 pawn. And this can give some unpleasant moments for white, as black is trying to make knight c2 or knight c3, as we looked before, a little bit this position. So that's why I thought maybe bishop c3 would be more advised to be to play, because if bishop b2, then Magnus will not sit and wait and will be very happy to be even more active with his rook, going to a2 and somehow bother a little bit more the white pieces. That's what I would think. Even though I don't know if knight b4 is possible, it just came to my mind. As knight e5 is not possible, because it would be a blunder, because bishop e5, and knight d3. I told you, you have to eliminate his knights.
Oh, Fabiano did not know.
Well, we'll see if he knows these tricks. And if bishop e5, then I think for the moment it's not enough for black knight d3, because black would be taking the rook, knight e1, and it's very important that the bishop is defending the a1 square, so black is not able to do that.
Yeah, there's no rook a1, luckily.
And if here bishop e5, then I think white has the advantage. because black goes here, and finally white can develop with his knight to c3 with the pawn up. So let's see, knight b4 I don't think is a good move, but rook a2 would be quite reasonable. But bishop c3 is a question to me. In other hand, white is defending the pawn on b4, but still the knight on b1 will not be able to develop in the next move. So I think even knight d4 or something can be considered by black.
And black is not even in a rush to capture on c7
But I
since
wouldn't
it's
be,
controlled.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Magnus would be playing bishop c4, for example, for a moment not allowing white to play b5, controlling this very important d3 square. In other hand, white can go d3.
Tricky move.
Tricky
Don't
move.
take it.
Because if black would take it, then rook d1. And black cannot avoid losing material, losing his bishop. So actually this is why bishop c4 is not a good move. Otherwise it could be quite unpleasant, I think. Okay, so bishop c4 is not something black would be playing.
You're suggesting knight to d4.
After knight d4, actually my only problem is I think white should be taking, and then the bishop pair is quite powerful here. And as we see, the white development is far, far behind. And one pawn will be taken in a second, and the other one will be also attacked on b4. And if once black will be moving somehow in more active places with his bishops, maybe the e5 is possible here. Yeah, it's a question whether the d4 pawn is falling off, then can be a problem for black. But here for the moment, black is not in such a big rush. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if black would just goes b5.
Simply to fix the b4 pawn on the dark square and say, as you mentioned, since the bishop is on c3, it's blocking the development of the b1 knight. So white needs to take some time, push the d pawn in order to be able to move the knight away from the back rank.
Yeah, probably d3 is something to be considering, and white will be able to develop. But for example, after king e7, still knight d2 is not so much possible, because rook d8 would be coming, and the d3 pawn would be attacked. And after rook e3, bishop h6.
If black wins back all the pawns, then what remains on the board is a pair of bishops and activity for black's pieces. So Fabiano should avoid this.
Yeah, white has to be very careful, even though he's a two pawns up for the moment. And actually Fabiano started to think.
Yes, it does feel like it's not his preparation anymore. I wonder at which point did you think that it was like when they said, enough of the analysis, I will just make the moves on the board? Because every home preparation is basically the decision when you consciously say, okay, from here on I can play on my own. They are not memorizing 40 moves, even if they could analyze it with the engine, because that's not practical. They need to revise and analyze so many different variations that they always need to take this practical decision when to stop. So in this variation, when do you think roughly the team Fabiano said, this is enough, you will play it over the board, you can think for yourself?
Well, maybe it was after c3, I must say. That after this he thought, okay, d4, cb4, I'm on safe ground. It's only playing for a win or a draw. But working with the engines can be extremely tricky also. That, of course, the evaluation became even more important than before the computer and engines time, I believe, because engines can very much mislead, especially before. I mean, we had a very famous title match between Kramnik and Leko, where it was very clear that because of the misjudgment of the computer, practically Kramnik lost the game without Peter had to make too much of a move out of his head. And that was not the only case. I happened to be in that situation as well quite some years ago when I thought, in my preparation, I'm just having a huge advantage against Adams, also in a martial attack. And the computer said that I'm fine, I'm on safe ground. And it happens that your opponent plays a move, and then suddenly you're scratching your head. Okay, the computer says I'm good, but why don't I understand how I'm good, and what do I have to make the move? So it can be very tricky, especially before years back. It can cause you some trouble. But nowadays the evaluation is much more precise than before, and also the players understand the judgment and evaluation of the program. But it is very important that you don't rely on the engines completely. Of course, they have great ideas. They have unexpected defensive skills, if I can say that, and they have fantastic attacking ideas, moves, which you may not even understand at first, only after analyzing quite a bit. But it's true, as you said, that you have to pick a point where you say enough is enough. I had all the analysis, and I can solve it at the board on my own, which not all the time is the case, but you have to make this decision. And this is one of the most difficult decisions, I think, for top players, to keep it in balance, to understand the ideas behind what the engine is suggesting, or the ideas what we have, to work it out in a way that the engine is helping us, but we're still in a position where we understand what is really going on and happening, and you don't get the surprises that you don't understand what's going on. So I would guess that after C3, this was a situation that he said, okay, I'm going to deal with it on my own. But I'm curious if Fabiano will reveal that, until which point it was home preparation, and how much Magnus was aware of this line, whether it has dangerous aspects.
What is sure at the moment, that the position we are looking at right now is not his preparation anymore. Fabiano is catching up with Magnus on the clock, so he used to have a big time advantage, but it's not the case anymore.
So here White has to be alert about his move.
Let's just go through once again the list of candidate moves. You have analyzed a couple of options here for White.
Yes, one of the moves were bishop c3, what we considered already, bishop c3. That was one move. But to be honest, I will show you one other move came to my mind. Bishop b2 is the other move, and knight c3 the third alternative. But right now, for some reason, I consider that c8 is also to be considered.
Explain us the idea of c8.
First, I have to understand it. Well, my idea is quite simple from point of view. If rook takes, then it's very clear, I think, to everybody that it's very important that now I have a spare move, as the rook is not the bishop is not hanging by the rook. So it's either b5 or bishop c3. I mean, anyway, it would be great to move and force the rook from a8 to c8. If the king takes on c8, also somehow I would think that maybe it's not standing so well, possibly on c8. Maybe, I don't know why, I have this feeling that it can be interesting.
And your intuition is very strong, so we shall believe that.
Yeah, but on the other hand, maybe now simply bishop c4, and now it can easily be played because d3 is not possible anymore because the king moved out.
Pity, I was already imagining a knight on d5 with some tricks, but it's far.
Well, the thing is, if white goes knight c3 now, then black goes knight takes b4. Yeah. And yeah, somehow it's not what white wants to have. So maybe c8 after all. It doesn't have too much idea behind.
Then we stay with the candidate moves. Bishop to c3, bishop to b2.
Also, if, for example, what happens if white goes d4 with the idea rook a1, then plays possibly d5. But I think this also will not work at all, because even bishop d5 is possible, or simply taking, and after takes, simply f takes e6, and black is going to take in the next move. King c7. So this is, and also e takes d4 is possible. So the main question is, bishop move or knight move to c3. If bishop c3, I just want to go b5 for black.
I was curious what our website suggests, and it shows almost 0, 0, 0, like very equal. So there's a bar next to the board that you can see, and it says that the position, even though at the moment white has 2 extra pawns,
that's not
it's
a nice
equal.
sign from looking at it from white perspective, having 2 pawns up and have.
And the edges are usually greedy, so they do give quite a value to extra material. But it means that the activity of the black pieces is so strong that it doesn't matter that white has 2 extra pawns in this position. And from the human's perspective, that's really unpleasant.
Yeah, and we can say that again we have a little similarity to the first game, where we could see that that Magnus played these pawn moves, and then he was not castling for some time, and then he had this great dynamics in his position, and he's having it again. So I think now he feels quite comfortable with that. That pawns here and there, okay, I will get it back. That's
yes. It seems to be a conscious decision from his side and his team. From game 1 on, he has been thriving to either he prefers to give up material but take the initiative and get a dynamic position, and that was his strategy from the very beginning.
Yeah, but he couldn't get it in all the games, but he could very clearly got it in the first game. And but actually, if you look at it, he can get it when Fabiano goes open up the position.
True, it was Fabiano who went for this b4 pawn sacrifice.
Yeah, and in first game also, he started to open up the position with f4, and after that, Magnus with some magical move, somehow he immediately
counterattack.
Yeah, somehow with shuffling his pieces without noticing it, Fabiano found himself in a very unpleasant position. Here I don't think he should be worrying too much in this position, but for sure he's not happy about his knight on b1. That is for sure. And he also feels it that he has to be very careful, because if he just plays defending the pawns, eventually it can fall off, and the priority for him is to develop with his pieces, which for the moment is created quite a lot of difficulty by Magnus. And actually you can see also his time, that he's spending quite a lot of time by now, and Magnus has 2 minutes more on the clock, which is not the most important thing, because we are at move 18 in an end game. So we cannot talk at all about any time travel for the moment. But it means that psychologically it was difficult, I think, in the beginning probably for Magnus to deal with b4 and in the first few moves afterwards. But we can say that he handled it extremely well.
I'm checking the latest tweets. Of course, you can always get in touch with us using the hashtag CarlsenCarlsen2018. And basically the discussion is about what you have already summed up, Judith, that, for instance, Kreta is saying, Rook A8, exclamation mark, Magnus Carlsen has weathered the storm and survived Fabiano Caruna's opening surprise. Who is better now? White currently has the material, but black has better development and piece activity. That's one of the tweets with our hashtag. And I think that was a good summary of what's happening on the board.
Well, for white, it's even a little problem, or it's missing out of the position, not only his development, but also it would be so nice to have this pawn on h3 already. You know, just in case not to have to be dealing with all the back rank problems possibly, because that is somewhat white is also missing. So let's see, bishop c3, b5. Yeah, this knight on b1 is not smiling. Definitely not smiling.
Do the pieces smile often? When they're happy?
Sometimes they liked me quite a lot, even if I sacrificed them, because other pieces of mine were happy.
So even the captured pieces can
Teamwork,
be smiling
teamwork.
back at you.
Teamwork is everything, on the board and off the board.
So here White is not happy about his teamwork, since the b1 knight cannot be developed.
Yeah, simply the only one piece which is really not standing the way it should be, and it gives a hard time for White to deal with this. And suddenly, I must say that here I would be more happy with Black. I'm not saying Black is better or anything like that yet, but
Yet?
But, I mean, to have the initiative and the attack and your pieces to be playing and attacking, it's a nice feeling.
I think this calls for another poll, since the position has changed so much. Mainly, we were asking you whether you think today was the day when we would see a decisive result, but now I'm curious what result will happen today. Can you please collaborate and raise your hand if you think that today White is going to win?
Oh.
No one? No one believes that Fabiano can win this position? He's 2 pawns up. Okay, a draw. Plenty of votes for the draw. What about Magnus Carlsen winning with the black pieces? I feel like it's a 50-50 between the draw and Magnus winning, and no one thinks that Fabiano could do this. Judith, you're great at convincing people about the initiative.
I should come up with some more optimism from his side, yeah?
I think you simply just highlighted that from a human perspective, even if this position is roughly equal for the engine, it's easier to play when you have the initiative, and you don't have to be making the most precise moves not to be in trouble.
Well, and it's not only that it's easier, but it's very clear that for Magnus, it's one of his main strengths when the lion gets out of the cage or something. So it's like...
Is the lion out of the cage now? Is it
I don't
already?
know. We are next to lion squares. I don't know, but it is very clear that he feels comfortable and relieved what he had just a few moves ago. I think that he found a way that really he was not wasting time by capturing the pawn. I think rook a8 was really essential from this point of view. And also Fabiano is realizing the moment has come when there is important situation, and you can see he's holding his head with his two hands. So he's also feeling that it can be a turning point of the game, or a definitely crucial moment, because every tempi really counts here.
Oh, the jacket is off. The jacket is off, and Fabiano has been thinking for over 21 minutes.
And Magnus left the board.
This doesn't paint a nice picture for Fabiano. So much time spent, sweating, and still no move on the board.
21 minutes.
When initially it was his preparation, the b4 pawn sacrifice in the Rossolimo, and he played very quickly up until the moment, move 17, 18.
Yes, because it's not so easy to evaluate these positions for humans and for engines especially, because it's for a long-term compensation from black side. So let's see knight c3. That, I mean, it's so much inviting to get out with this knight to c3. Knight b4. Maybe if knight d5, maybe I can do that. Knight d5, let's say bishop d5, e d5, knight c2, and it's not funny for white, I must say. White can go rook c1, But rook a1. No, then that's simply rook a1. Taking the bishop. So it is not possible. It is not possible to play knight d5 for the moment. Unless, what about playing bishop e5? But I have doubts. I think I'm just messing things up. I think black can just simply play knight d3 and wins material, for sure. So this is not an option. Knight d5 cannot be played. Yeah, this knight c2 is very annoying. What about bishop b2? After bishop b2, we said knight d3, rook b1. But this is also not funny at all. I mean, if just black goes knight b2, rook b2, rook a1. Well, I told you that we should be having h3. We don't have, so white would be going rook b1, knight b1, king c7. Black has a clear advantage with his bishop pairs and the passed b pawn. So this is not something white should be going for.
You still suggest bishop c3 as the move for white?
Well,
I see you're trying to make knight c3 work,
I'm
but
trying
it
to
doesn't.
make this work. Actually, I just see a saving move. Maybe bishop d2, knight d3, rook a1. Why didn't you tell me this? I'm sure you saw that. Yeah, rook a1
We
is
also
something.
enjoyed it, of course. The rook is hanging, so the bishop can't be taken on b2, and after rook a1, bishop takes a1, everything is safe. But the
But
bishop
now
on
black
a1
has,
is
for
still
example,
so...
rook a6.
Yeah, the other question, of course.
It's kind of a nice move, and if white would be taking, takes, white has to move away the bishop, king c7. Again, it's black who is playing for a win.
Equal material, but
question about
very
it.
active pieces for black,
the-
and the pair of bishops.
And what a knight on d3, and the passed pawn on the a.
The jacket is off also for Magnus Carlsen, but for a different reason, perhaps.
No, he seems to be very happy.
Seems to
and
be very comfortable.
I can understand why he's happy. All his pieces are playing, apart from the g7 bishop, but eventually that can come to the game. What about b5? Did we check b5? I didn't consider b5 yet. Well,
B5.
after b5, rook a1, b takes c6. B takes c6. It's important because finally black has no passed pawns. Actually, this can be reasonable for white. Well, knight c3, rook takes,
Two
Knight
knights versus
takes.
two bishops.
king c7.
Is this promising?
Well, of course you want to play it with black still, but I'm not sure it's such a big deal, to be honest. But it's black who is more comfortable. And now, I don't know, is it 30 minutes by now?
Almost. Let me check the exact
Fabiano
time. It's 27 minutes Fabiano has been thinking for, and still no move. He's now 15 minutes below. He's 15 minutes behind on the clock. And he started out with a time advantage, which vanished after these past few moves. It has been the preparation of Fabiano, but apparently...
Where did it go wrong?
Yes,
This is the
somewhere
big
they stopped
question.
where maybe it was still a bit too difficult for the engines. We don't want to scare anyone who's rooting for Fabiano. It is still roughly equal in terms of evaluation, but the position is more difficult to play for white. And he's not convinced about this moment.
Well, that's very clear. This he cannot hide it anymore, that he's in kind of a trouble or dilemma, how to continue with the position, and actually who is playing for a win, to re-evaluate the position, how it is standing. So far b5 was still the best, what I've analyzed here.
B5 you like more now than bishop c3?
I don't know, after bishop c3, I really don't like this b5 move. because it gives white big difficulty to develop with his knight on b1 and ever finding a square where it can feel comfortable. And also the c3 bishop is not something that white can be so proud of. And if white would be going knight g5, trying to get rid of the e6 bishop, I think black is just able to go either to a2, which is also possible, or to b3. And I don't see really what progress white made. Well, maybe f4, but still the knight on b1 is not something that white is happy with. Well, here my plan is that after f6, white comes back to f3, and if e takes f4, finally get some activity with d4.
Creates a square for the knight, and at the same time, some threats later in the center. This could be one of the options. Now I like this somewhat more than having to play two knights versus two bishops.
Yeah, because somehow suddenly it's not black who is pressing, but there you can breathe, kind of. But at first it doesn't seem to me that white can do something like this, to be honest.
Yeah, with the knight still undeveloped, going for a concrete line, pushing f4.
I mean, black can maybe just take on c7. White goes knight f3 back. Well, for the moment, maybe it is possible. Because bishop c4, then d3, with the same idea that black cannot take and capture on d3 because of rook d1. So bishop c4 is would not give much for black, so bishop b3, f4. Yeah, this is absolutely not promising for Fabiano that he was spending already so much time. I don't know if, well, I played b5 with black, which I kind of liked for black, so white cannot push b5 himself. And on knight d4, bishop d4, e d4, e5. I think here white is okay, I think. White is getting okay. Well, still I think bishop c3 is the move. It should be played.
By now it's over half an hour that Fabiano has been using for making this decision. Still no move on the board.
But it's also possible now. I'm looking knight c3, knight b4, rook b1. Maybe this is the move. So if black is going knight c2, then bishop b2. And the knight on c2 is not necessarily placed.
Oh, bishop c3. I almost missed it. Breaking news, Fabiano has made a move.
Okay, bishop c3, our main line.
Woo, after 32 minutes of thinking, bishop to c3.
But he's not happy about his position.
No, he stays there at the board and he doesn't seem very confident. We mainly say that it's Magnus who gives out more with his body language and facial expressions, but right now it's not the same Fabiano that we are looking at. The poker face, I'm confident, I'm cool. It feels like he really isn't enjoying this position.
King c7 or king c7?
Magnus played immediately. Of course, he had plenty of time to think about what to play after bishop c3, and that was the main candidate
I was not even
move.
considering. I thought it's for later.
Maybe that, but I thought that his reasoning could be the following. You were pointing out that the b1 knight is not going anywhere. So
That's
why
true.
not take a tempo, capture this c7 pawn, and then next move he
Yeah,
can
but
continue.
now what did he play?
d3, played by Fabiano. Threatening to develop the knight.
Yeah, that's the biggest threat.
But
Because
even then, the d3 pawn is hanging in the variation you showed us.
well, now the question is whether black is going to be playing b5 someday or not yet. I don't know. Somehow king c7, I was not so much. Well, actually, we can transpose. He can go b5 now. But if white would have played b5, then black's plan must have been to playing knight d4. And after bishop d4, e takes d4. And if white would be playing e5, then probably simply defending it rook a4. And the b5 pawn would be falling off in later stage of the game. Well, I completely understand that Fabiano wants to develop his knight. Finally, it's already moved 20 and it's still not developed. So the plan is to play knight d2 and possibly to c4 even. d3.
In one of the variations you analyzed, we were looking at a similar line where the knight would manage to be developed to d2, but rook d8 was always a problem with the d3 pawn hanging. Do you think that all that black needs to do is, for instance, push b5 and reach that position, or something even more concrete than pawn to b5?
I don't know, I'm looking, what about playing king b6 with black? This can also be interesting. I don't know if it's too optimistic with the idea later on to block the pawn when it's already at that stage of the game. So the king is playing. Also, at some point, even the knight could regroup. But for the moment, the e5 pawn has to be defended by black. So if king b6, let's say knight bd2, king b5. Kind of a strange play, isn't it?
I like it. It's a very active king.
It's annoying, looking at it from the white side, to be honest.
Oh, it's very annoying.
It's kind of annoying.
Especially with these weaknesses. The b4 pawn is a target, the d3 pawn is a target, and black also has the pair of bishops, plus more active pieces. So it's not a pleasant endgame to play, even though white is an extra pawn for the moment.
Well, white might be playing rook c1 in order to play knight c4 in the next move. So if rook d8, knight c4, I think actually black is doing fine. As after knight e5, black would be, oh no, for the moment white is okay because rook c3 is not possible. Because white would be taking and rook c5. So this simplification would be not easy. But you know what? It's awful. Look at this. Look at this poor white. I mean, what do you do with your rook?
Oh my. There's no way to come back with the rook. You can't move it.
Well, you have to
It takes a while. Rook g5 and then rook g3 and then...
Well, king... no, b5 is hanging. I don't know, but I don't know.
Rook g3 and then he has to bring it to the d5. Okay.
No, here I think
then white
has to run with the king. Yeah.
But still, even an exchange sacrifice would be interesting with such an active king. So it's incredible to see these positions where it's only a bishop for the rook.
But I think white is
There's not a
reaching there
pawn.
because for the moment this would be a blunder. So there are always tricks all over. But white is doing okay. Yeah. So white is
He
fine.
arrives in time.
Yeah.
But still, I think the fact that almost this variation with an exchange sacrifice works for black just goes to show how dangerous his position is. How dangerous
very
it is for
dangerous.
white to play this position.
But here white is just worse in other way, I think. Knight e5, bishop e5, bishop e5, knight e5, and then rook b3 or rook d4. So it's more dangerous for white, definitely. So maybe this king b6 has its ideas completely. It is kind of unexpected at first to me. Maybe the best white should be doing, is to go the b5 and giving up the pawn. So at least I have activity.
You think that's what Fabiano should do?
Well, I don't know. With rook a3. Yeah, rook a3, rook c1. No, it's definitely black who I would be playing with. So what to play after king b6? Well, it's an idea to go bishop d2 and playing for knight c3. And if rook d8, then playing knight c3, and after rook d3, white can go bishop e3 check. So it would be nice already if white could push the king back, but also knight d4 is an opportunity for black. Well, for now I like king b6. Maybe we should make a vote.
King
like
b6 or
b5
b5.
king b6.
If Judith says that it's time for a poll, then we will do so. Once again, there are two options. Do you think that Magnus Carlsen should play king to b6 and try to activate his king, or block the b4 pawn by pushing b5? If you think that the king move is better, can you please raise your hand now? King to b6, bringing the king. Okay, what about b5, the pawn push? It's roughly equal, I think.
But we have to ask what else? Maybe somebody for something else.
Something else.
Anybody for something else? Any suggestion? Instead of b5 or king b6? But we have Daniel King here, and we'll ask him. Hi.
Oh dear. I've
Yeah,
been
so
landed in
just
this
this.
position.
You haven't seen it for some time?
Well,
Call your name, would you mind?
I was looking at the position after rook a8, and Fabiano was
Spending 30 minutes.
really long time. Now,
Yeah.
okay, that suggests to me that something has kind of gone wrong with his preparation. He's obviously not entirely comfortable with the position. So the question is, what went wrong? Was he gambling when he played, for example, queen e2?
We were discussing it previously. If we go back to a position when move 17, c3, and I have the feeling that after c3, Fabiano thought, okay, enough is enough. We know the evaluation. I'm going to be playing on my own.
Excuse me.
And then he got king d7, c takes b4, rook a8, and now he realized that maybe things are not so rosy as he thought, that he's completely on the safe side.
Okay, so
This is my version of it.
so not going deeply enough into the preparation, or
Well, you have to stop somewhere, right? And you think it was early,
I guess so.
move 17. Well, it seems so, I understand. But still, you know, if let's say the engine says that it's plus something, it's very clear you have 2 pawns up, it can't go wrong so much. And actually, at first, you don't see that it can be such a big danger.
Yeah,
But suddenly, black got such an initiative.
I'm intrigued to know how deeply Magnus had gone into this position in his preparation.
What do you think, how long his preparation lasted?
I think it could be all the way.
You think so?
Could be. Excuse me, I've come on with a tickle. That's not good, is it?
So we can see
could
on
be.
the press conference asking this. I'm very curious because I had the feeling that he was kind of out of the book. It was just intuitively, and he likes these kind of positions.
Oh, really? You think he was improvising?
I think so.
Wow.
Maybe I'm completely wrong though. But okay, b4 is a seldomly played move. And after king c7, d3, I have the feeling of king b6. What do you think? Because
Okay.
before I was mainly considering b5, actually playing b5 without king c7. This was my
Well, Magnus likes to be as active as possible.
yes.
So king b6 would suit his style.
So I think it's kind of an unpleasant move, you know.
I mean, I've often found, you know, watching his games in tournaments, he just always likes to go for the max. I mean, this sounds a bit obvious, but to go for the maximum, there are positions where maybe you could wait a little bit.
Yeah.
But he really presses hard. He tests his opponent. I mean, Anna and I were commentating in Biel this summer,
Yes.
where Magnus was playing. And there was, I don't know if you remember this game against Peter Svidler. It was a knight. Peter played the Najdorf. Magnus
Yes.
played bishop g5, which was fun. And this very sharp line with knight d7. Anyway,
Yeah.
typical sharp Sicilian Najdorf position. And Magnus, in the opening, suddenly went bishop b5, leaving the bishop on prise,
Yeah.
on b5,
Yeah.
and provoked a real crisis in the position. And, well, he almost won this game, almost completely crushed it. But actually, he didn't need to do this. He actually had a very, very nice position and could have built up more slowly on the king side and pressed rook g1 with, well, various ideas.
But you know, I have the feeling that in the last years, Magnus lost his patience.
This is it.
Somehow I have my recollections and seeing games back, for example, his first match with Anand. And I mean, he was so comfortable playing these nothing really positions, right? And it's not only that he was playing on, because he was playing it on here as well. But you could see and feel that he's really enjoying it. He really wants to show it that he's outplaying the opponent in a drawish or equalish position. And he
Yeah.
did it quite a few times.
Of course, but it's not just that, not just the grinding away, but it's in middle game positions where he wants to provoke a crisis very,
Yes,
very quickly.
But this is also can be part of it.
But I wonder, I mean,
Not necessarily.
yeah, because Kasparov was talking about this, and he said Magnus is playing too much blitz.
I've heard that from other people too.
But this was Gary's view. He said Magnus plays too much blitz. In blitz, you have to play
Yeah.
actively. And, well, it's interesting. I think he has changed a little bit. I mean, when I asked him, specifically in this game against Peter Svidler, I asked Magnus afterwards, okay, so, did you consider these alternatives? Of course, he knew he didn't have to play bishop f5. And he just said, I wanted to get on with it.
Yeah, this is the feeling I have.
Yeah.
He just wants to keep himself entertained. And that's how it is, right? He said it, that he wouldn't be here if he wouldn't have fun.
Yeah, but I just thought it was a funny way of putting it. I just wanted to get on with it. As you say, it's kind of...
Before, he was not rushing anywhere. He was there for 6 hours, 7 hours.
Well, we still have that, of course, but in certain middle game positions. Anyway, what's so... Okay, you think...
I think king b6 is something to...
A Magnus move.
And it's a Magnus move, yeah. Keep an option, make Fabiano to decide how to continue.
Okay, so...
And keep rook d8 all the time.
So
in there.
you were looking at bishop d2 then? But what about... Okay, what if I just play the normal move?
Knight bd2,
Knight d2?
king b5 actually.
King b5, just straight.
Yeah, because after rook d8, I would think that knight c4 can be quite okay. So why not to stop this with black? Playing king b5
Okay,
first.
but knight c4, king b5...
But there the e5 knight is
oh,
e5
sorry, e5
pawn.
is hanging.
Yeah,
e5 is hanging, I beg your
so-
pardon. Okay, yeah.
Just knight takes e5. So anyway, why to allow this? Magnus will never allow him to get out of the box. I think
Okay,
he
but
just
after-
wants to control the squares
So after knight...
as much as possible.
Yeah, king b5.
And now rook a3, rook d8, both are very powerful.
Yeah, that looks nice, doesn't it?
Well, maybe knight at g5 now, but after knight g5, I think actually there are different options. Even rook d8 can be considered, I think. Or
Yeah.
maybe the move rook d8. So rook e3 you can't be playing because of, I think, bishop h6.
Yeah, but then knight e6.
Okay, takes.
Okay, and then I have to play rook h3.
I'm thinking, can I go instead of f takes e6 if I go here? Knight d8, bishop d2. Well, you have to take it back.
Okay, interesting
Here.
endgame. then I have to take back. You take on d8. Who's better and why? Okay, you're going to take on b4. Isn't that tenable? If I put the king on e2?
Well, isn't it black who is playing for advantage?
I suppose so, yeah. That may not be so bad. I mean, there's a lot of traffic to get through for the pawn on b7.
Yeah, but it's still knight c6, king
course.
c5, so it's not.
Yeah.
But maybe there is something else. After knight e6, if f takes e6, to keep the rooks actually would be advised for black, I think.
Sure.
And
Maybe rook f3 instead of, I'm assuming,
I would just take knight b4.
knight b4. Yeah, this is,
Though, well, I understand that you want to take and maybe knight c4. And somehow white is getting somewhere.
yeah, but the rook looks
But
very strange.
in other hand, after rook e3, I might be just going bishop a2. Or in the previous move, because you might be taking here knight e6, and then somehow play rook e3. But all over here, I think it's black who has the upper hand. Bishop f8, grabbing on b4.
Certainly, I mean, the rook looks very,
But what happens if after knight g5, I sneak away to a2?
well, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about this whole thing with knight d2. Can we go back?
Yeah. I was thinking about bishop d2, but immediately rook d8.
Bishop d2, rook d8, so you just want to take a pawn.
Yeah, I'm playing it very simple.
This is unpleasant. So check.
Well, checking b5, I think I would be going ahead. Forward.
Okay, this is charge of the light brigade stuff. Cannons to the right, cannons to the left.
It is. It's not nice from white's point of view.
No, I can't. I'm trying to think of some horrible tactic to trick the king.
Knight c3, king b4.
Yeah, the king's good. And knight a3 check takes. King knight c2, it's nothing.
King c3.
King c3.
You're inviting me.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
happy to.
No, go. Yeah, the king can come in. No, it's horrible. I'm not surprised. He's played.
No,
Oh no, Magnus
No.
is still.
he's thinking also
Yeah.
already more than 15 minutes, I think.
Okay, I think he realizes he has a
yeah.
serious chance.
He
here.
has a moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
This
again, he's
could be.
realizing that it's him who is going to be
Yeah.
playing for a win.
Exactly.
So now he smelled
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. Really
Well,
interesting.
especially with the 30 minutes thought by Fabiano in the previous move.
Yeah, I think that says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And after this, Magnus has 2 whites in a row.
yeah. No, yes.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Because game 6 and game 7.
Yeah, because they
Imagine if he
Yeah.
could win this one, then 2 whites, just to chill
Yeah.
out, turn the heat.
Well, so far black is doing fine in the match. It's already game 5.
Yeah, I mean, there was.
Okay, game 4
But quite a lot was made of this. That somehow, you know, this is the match of black openings. That
Yeah,
black is
that's
doing well. But
kind of exaggerating. But if
So,
we think,
yeah.
but if we think about it, why didn't get so much out of the openings? I
No.
mean, eventually we can say that it was at some point of the game it was black who was playing clearly for winning, right? Game 1 it was clear.
yeah.
Game 2 it was Fabiano who had the pawn up at the end. Not in the whole game, but still.
Okay, I mean, I think game 4 was something of an aberration because actually, no, sorry, game 3 because Fabiano should have been better out of this opening. With taking on a5 instead.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I understand, but at that point it was white who was having more comfortable
Yeah.
position. But after bishop d2, rook a8, practically Fabiano was a little bit outplayed.
Sure, but what I
mean,
mean
in
is
the-
that as a result of the opening, it should have been white with
it was not a result of the
Yeah.
opening.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I'm just saying at one point each game, black had the more comfortable situation.
So, apart from king b6, I'm just wondering what Magnus is contemplating here. What about playing rook? Can we play rook d8 immediately, or is b5?
It's b5, which I
is a
wanted to
problem?
simply to stop by
Okay,
playing
this
king
is the problem.
b6, and that's why I was considering b5, the other
Yeah.
move, also to stop.
It's no big deal. Yeah, yeah.
Because I
okay.
think both are pretty inviting. After b5, well, knight.
Yeah, it's a problem.
I mean,
You
now
don't-
already you
yeah.
take with the.
I'm trying
knight.
to get to grips
Yeah.
with this position.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back. And
I think it's essential for black to control the b5. Square or block.
okay, well, let's look at b5. Let's look at pawn to b5, the alternative.
Yeah. In some ways, I liked b5 a lot, but when I found king b6, I had the idea that there are even more scary things happening to white.
Okay.
But here also it's not easy, because after knight d2, already immediately rook d8 and he grabs the pawn. Because rook e3, bishop h6. So there is not much to talk about that. If rook c1, in order that, okay, for the moment after rook d3, I think bishop e5 is possible. And bishop e5, well, rook c6. Well, it's not the end of the world. Black goes king b7. But okay, rook c5 or something, so it's not black who is necessarily. Well, even here, bishop f4, yeah?
That's fun. You're so tricky.
Takes. Check here. I mean, all these bishops for black is crazy, no?
Check.
Rook.
Yeah, bishop c4.
Well,
but
yeah, rook c5, trying to get hold on it. Bishop.
might not be enough.
Well, I don't know.
Still going.
Somehow with these bishops.
g3, bishop h3. Boom.
Well, no, now rook d5.
Oh, rook
wow,
d5.
good saving.
Okay, but of course it's
But
not,
it was not
necessary.
it was not fun. Okay, so I don't take on d3,
So you can
but
play
black
king
just
b6,
simply goes
yeah.
king b6. And the problem is white
Played-
simply.
He played king b6. Okay, thanks. There you go. He's gone for your king b6. Yeah.
King b6.
I mean, in a way, I think it's a more ambitious move, king b6.
Yeah, it's a much more trickier move.
It's trickier.
There are so much more ideas behind for later.
Now, we were looking at Fabi earlier, and he seemed to be going a funny shade of red. This seems to be his tell. You know, normally he's actually very calm, but I don't know, when he went into this half-hour think,
That was very.
he seemed to turn a funny colour. That's his tell in poker. Next time you're playing poker with him.
Does he play poker? It's Magnus who does.
I don't
no?
think so.
It's Magnus
I don't think
who
either
isn't.
plays very seriously.
Well, still bishop d2 is something to consider, I think.
Yeah.
But bishop d2, and after rook d8, going knight c3, and after rook d3 to go knight a4
Oh,
check,
you want to play knight c5.
and knight c5.
Okay, you found a good square, finally.
Finally, out
the-
of
for
this
the knight,
horrible
yeah.
square b1, I find myself being
Okay,
on
well, this is
c5.
okay. If you can take on b7, then it's
Yeah, now
should
actually
be problem
things
solved.
are okay.
Okay, so let's. But maybe
So
here.
rook bishop d2.
Yeah.
And actually the bishop on d2 stands better, having this bishop e3 option as well. And anyway, I like the knight much more on c3.
Okay, well, here's a funny idea. What if I play knight d4 in this position? And the simple idea is
Focusing on my knight.
I just want to dominate the knight on b1.
Absolutely, I understand. But still, I think I just want to get out of b1.
You're not interested.
And,
That's a pity.
Well, I think it's very important for white to stop black progressing to b5 with his king. It's essential.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I mean, after knight d4, it's pretty clear that black would have a fantastic amazing position, right? White would be going away.
Yeah, but then the b4
Let's
pawn is
say-
hanging, so should be good for black.
King b5.
Or bishop f8. I'm not sure which is better. I don't know.
On bishop f8, I go bishop e5, I think.
Okay.
Trying to look for some counter chances.
Well, I can still play.
Well, rook d8.
Yeah, then knight d2. When you takes rook b1.
Finally, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I can breathe again.
Yeah, rook b1. That's another story. Okay, let's go back. Okay, but
but
anyway, knight
here-
c3 is
Yes, but
is
here
better.
also
King b5.
you go king
Yeah.
b5, I think, simply. And if knight d2, you take it, right?
Yeah, sure. Well, let's
You're
go
not
back.
Shy.
So knight d4 simply
So
knight c3.
yeah, knight d4, knight c3, and
Well,
no, it's not so simple.
okay, it's not so simple. However, if I played, I'm wondering about rook a3 actually.
Rook a3 can be very annoying, I have to admit. That I don't like this continuation at all. Even though I'm not sure what is your threat with black.
Well, I was going to think about that later. Well, okay, my threat might be just to play rook b3, and very slowly to round up this pawn.
Anyway, you're improving your position with
Yeah.
rook a3. That's clear. You tie down my rooks because the d3 pawn is hanging.
Actually, maybe knight b5 as well.
Then maybe I still have a check. If I go rook c1, knight
Yeah,
b3.
true.
Well, okay, let's try. Let's try this, rook c1. Because if you go knight b3, I give it check. And
Yeah.
I think I can have some counter chances. After king a6, I move back somewhere. d1, b1.
Okay, that's
No, it's
tricky.
not
It's
so
not. I haven't
obvious.
got control. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not so obvious.
So bishop d2. Let's just go back to that move. Okay, so that was knight d4.
No, actually, it seems to me that it's kind of the only move which gives problem.
Bishop
And
d2.
criticizing playing king b6. That it's not so obvious that, yeah, after king b2.
Right.
So the knight has to be on c3.
Okay, let me try
Bishop g4 can be also a move.
bishop g4. Okay. I'm a bit worried about the knight landing on d5.
Well, let's say if knight c3, just take a look at this. Ah, knight d5.
Knight
you go
d5 and knight
immediately.
c7 check.
Ah, okay. Okay. So that black cannot do. Okay, so bishop g4 is not so.
Any ideas out there? After bishop d2, we're looking for a move. I mean, Magnus must have
So if rook d8,
contemplated this.
then we said knight c3. It's not so simple.
It's hard to kill White's counterplay, really, isn't it?
No, and also that bishop e3 is a
Yeah.
real threat because king b5 is not possible.
That could be the idea. Bishop d2. Well, Fabi has been thinking, how long? Can we see the clock, maybe? I can't see the clock times there. We can see Fabi.
I think he's thinking like for now.
It's some time. But I think he senses that this is a really, really important moment. Either he's going
Yes,
to
but we
break
are keep
out.
telling this already quite a few moves.
Well, for most of the game.
No, I think there was a point after c3. Every move is crucial for both
Yeah.
sides because it's somehow it's a run, it's a race for them. Whether black reaches king b5, rook d8, captures all the pawns back, in what circumstances. So it is a very tense period of the game.
Yeah, about whether Magnus can control it or whether Fabi just breaks free.
And whether Magnus will be over-optimistic and thinking too much of his position. Because now after bishop d2, I have the feeling that it's... I didn't feel this for last half an hour. I think that white is kind of having counter chances.
Yeah. I want
activity.
Can I explore the knight d4 move again?
I think he was thinking about 10 minutes.
He's on 43, nearly 10 minutes.
Yeah, he was...
Can we explore knight d4 again?
If knight d4, actually it's very logical, taking space. We played knight c3.
And what's white's threat here?
I will come up with something.
You always do.
Well, I think, knight g5 is something to consider, but also maybe it's possible to take a knight d5 check. Because if you have to take on d5, let's say...
Yeah, then that's not so special.
You played rook a3, and what was after that? I just played rook c1. Well, maybe you should just go f6 or something.
Not sure.
Yeah, maybe f6. Okay.
I can't.
Well, this is the situation for the moment.
I was just wondering about, taking on c3 doesn't help, does it? That liquidation.
Well, we're going to see how it works. But, I'm curious what Fabi is going to be up to after king b6. Well, thank you, Daniel, for your ideas. It was fun to discuss this.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward whether we're going to have bishop d2 on the board soon.
See you soon.
See you soon. Ask the great questions later on. So we just had a move. Let's see what white played. And bishop d2 just arrived, what we were discussing. And I think it was practically the only move and the best move by white. It was a very important decision for white to play bishop d2 because this is especially needed for the defense, or let's talk more about counterattack with knight c3. So welcome back, Anna.
Thank you very much, Judith.
We had a few moves. I think not much. King b6 happened, and
I thought I would miss more than a pair of moves, but luckily it didn't happen. So I'm.
It seems like bishop d2 was not expected, maybe, or Magnus, or he was expecting, and that's why he took on his jacket. Maybe it's cold again in the box.
The temperature in the playing hall was one of the other topics discussed, especially during the first round when Magnus not only wore his suit, but he put his jacket over the suit, while Fabiano was basically the same as usual. Today's the first day, I think, that he took off his jacket. The game is heating up.
Absolutely. Well, now it's after bishop d2. We were discussing it with Daniel, how black can create trouble for white, and it was not so simple for us to do so. Because suddenly after king b6, the plan marching ahead to b5, it is not advised for black, because probably white will just go knight c3. And if black would dare to take on b4, then simply, I think, rook b1. I think that's the simplest continuation, and the b7 is hanging, and anyway, the black king, this is not what he's looking for. So king b5, for the moment, it stopped, because the square c3 was freed up with bishop d2, and I think it also gives extra defensive chances for white, that he can go bishop e3 later on. We were discussing knight d4 or rook d8. And I think now black will have the dilemma how to continue and how to give the most difficult challenge to white. We were discussing knight d4, king b5, rook d8. Rook d8 and knight d4 are the main moves. So after rook d8, knight c3. And the important thing is that black cannot take on d3 because of check, and knight c5. So if black goes back to d7, also knight c5 would be coming, and then white can exchange also the bishop. But anyway, now it's not so dangerous for white at all.
Bishop d2 seems such a creative move. It's not what comes to mind first. We are all looking at this b1 knight, wanting to develop it, and then he makes a retreating move with the bishop.
Yeah, but still, when there is a need, then you come up with creative and unexpected and not so obvious ideas. But this was kind of only move when necessary, I think. This gives the biggest challenge to king b6 for sure. So after all, maybe b5 was better. But king b6 was very inviting, to be honest.
It was a very tempting move, but we didn't think of bishop d2. I don't know if you analyzed it later when I left.
Maybe b5 we also analyzed a bit, yeah.
I don't know b5, I meant bishop d2.
Bishop d2 we analyzed, that's what we were talking about
Okay.
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, we found bishop d2 and we didn't find anything so promising for black. It was okay, but nothing special. Maybe bishop f8 though, it's possible. Anyway, I think white would be going knight c3. Or still, even here, bishop e3, king b5, knight c3, king b4, and knight d5. And actually, it's nice for white that he becomes very active.
It would be equal material, but finally white has also really active pieces, and that's what he should aim for.
Well, black can move on and go with king b3, because after rook b1 would be probably mistake because of king c2, and white cannot capture. Again, I'm still missing this move h3, what I missed already quite some moves ago. But even here, it's not the end of the world, I think, for white. White can just... well, I don't know, of course, if I can give away this pawn, but...
It's quite some journey that the black king has done. Can we try to draw the path of the black king? I find it fascinating how it ended up on d3.
Yeah, it took quite a journey from e8. Actually, it never castled.
Never castled. From e8 to d7, then c7, b6, b5, c4.
No, b4.
No, wait,
b4, b3, c2, d3.
Yes, even longer.
Yeah.
Why the white king, all the white king has done was castle kingside and stay on g1.
Yeah. So this is not clear for black. But I think also knight d5, king b3, rook c1 or something. I mean, white has full control, I think. No dangers by any means. So actually bishop f8 is also not so promising.
What shall be the move then? So we have looked at
Well,
rook
bishop
d8,
f8.
knight d4, bishop f8.
Yeah, actually knight d4 seems to be still the best. And because knight d4 would be giving a lot to black, and still the knight is dominated by the pawn, and so this is something white should be avoiding, I think. And actually Fabiano left the board, so maybe by now he also feels a little bit more comfortable with his defense.
Bishop d2 definitely seems like a strong move, and now we have reverse roles. It is Magnus who is somewhat concerned. Not that he's in trouble, but perhaps he thought that his position was even more promising.
Yeah, because a move before, I think maybe it was. And in this position, this is the interesting, that you have to find so much the most accurate move, because it's not winning, it's not losing, it's not necessarily huge advantage for black or anything, but it's already unpleasant for white. I mean, b5 was kind of maybe more unpleasant. Here still white has to be more careful than black. So he also feels it, of course, that it should be him who tries to squeeze a little bit. So after knight d4, which is a nice active move, we talked about knight c3, just in case to stop black to play king b5. And then rook a3 is an option, for example, and then we played rook c1. So it's kind of important for the moment that black king cannot move ahead. And I think white's next move will be bringing somehow the king to f1, a little bit centralizing. For example, if black goes f6. But on the other hand, if f6, then bishop e3, I think, will be the move. I mean, now white has all kind of counter plays. The black bishop cannot move away because knight d5 check. So it's not so simple for black at all. And he's also spending quite a few minutes already on this position.
This
after
is move
bishop d2.
21. So still plenty of moves to be played. We could expect time trouble if they continue playing this slow. Just a reminder.
It can be easily the case later.
The players will receive extra time after move 40, so they need to play the first 40 moves to get an additional 50 minutes, and we are still 20 moves away from that moment. I think that is likely to be time pressure for both players.
Yes, it can happen easily.
Fabiana's back at the board. A bit of Isklar mineral water, straight from Norway, of course, an official partner of the World Chess Championship match, as well as the pens that they are using. The Saint Dupont pen, each of them costs £1,000. So if you want to have the same pen as Fabiano and Magnus, it only costs £1,000. It's a special edition pen. We are going to get some help to understand the situation on the board from another world champion. She has won the women's world title 3 times. She was the youngest, actually, the youngest ever player to become women's world champion, and she studies currently at the Oxford University. Her name is Hui Fan. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Hi.
Welcome. Hi.
Yifan, how does it feel to be here at the venue, first of all? I'm sure you were following the events.
Yeah, I was following the events at Oxford, and I attended the opening ceremony, but this is my first time to be at the venue. Though I still didn't have a chance really to step in the playing venue, but here, this place is actually my first stop. Yeah, but, it gives me a kind of different feeling while I'm following, online and comparing time exactly here, not only to feel kind of tense of the players, but also see a lot of chess followers. Here, it gives me a feeling that exactly this is the real chess match.
How does it compare to the Women's World Championship matches and also the place? Now it's organized in London, which it makes it easier, more accessible for chess fans to turn up. It's not Hantimansisk.
Yeah, exactly. Myself, I played the 3 previous matches and actually also won World Championship in this knockout system. But all the places of 3 matches was not exactly like the city of London, New York, or Paris. Instead, there were some places like Tirana, actually the capital city of Albania. And also there are 2 other cities, one in China, the other one in Ukraine, from each of the host country of the players. And comparing to talking about the difference exactly while it was, held in the big cities, always attracted more people. But I believe the main reason is because actually here the game was played by 2 the strongest players among the world, and not only to talking about the quality of the chess and the technical part. There are definitely some difference for sure.
Judith, what's your impression? I know that you didn't play in the Women's World Championship matches, but you were a commentator in New York. How do you see? We were discussing it at the beginning of the broadcast, how chess is now in these main capitals of the world. Is that a good tendency, and we are going to see more and more chess fans turning up at chess events?
I think it's very nice. It was wonderful to have it in New York, and there also quite a lot of people were visiting the place and experiencing what is the atmosphere of a World Championship match and what kind of tension the players has to deal with. Also in the press conference, it was for the public. They could also ask questions, so it's always an exceptional opportunity for them. I think it's fantastic if it can be organized in big cities where more and more people can visit because they want to visit the city at the same time and stop by in the match. I think it makes it much more colorful for the event itself. From this point of view, definitely, it's a great thing.
I think our audience would agree. I hope that they enjoy that it's being hosted in the downtown of London, the heart of the city. Yifan, how do you see this match? And if you have played against both Magnus and Fabiano, what's your personal experience against facing them?
Well, yeah, I felt like a great pleasure to play both of the players, and definitely they're kind of super strong. And according to my results, actually, with Magnus, I got even less chances. Well, actually, I was quite happy to won Fabiano once before, but in general, definitely they're scoring much higher. And from my personal perspective, I could feel that both players have a kind of different playing style. So for Magnus, what really challenged me the most was his very delicate skills. So even some positions looked quite drawish, he can really try to find every single opportunities trying to cause the pressure on you, and normally it works. I noticed later on, not only in my situation, but also for many other strong grandmasters. But on the other hand, I felt like Fabiano is another type of player who has a very, very strong nerve. And for example, probably we all noticed this by the first game of the match, where we all feel like the white's position is kind of hopeless, especially while you're playing against Magnus, the world champion. But actually, he tried to survive, and he played very, I think, kind of accurate while the game goes to the end game, and he defended it quite well. And especially it was in the World Championship match. Yes. Both they're facing under psychological pressure and also from the technical part. So this very specific ability really surprised me, and I think it also helped Fabiano to become the challenger and to become one of the greatest players now.
That was indeed a key game and a very tough start for Fabiano, his first game at the World Chess Championship match. Were you nervous when you played your first game at the World Championship match? Or since it was the knockout system, didn't affect you that much? If you remember, because you won your first world title actually so long ago, you were very young.
Yeah, 8 years ago. So that was the lockout system. So it's a kind of different feelings because you're going to play 6 different players, yes. And there are less games. Normally, the player need to be more careful with each of their decision because one single blunder might,
it's a mini match.
You're not only losing the match,
yes.
but also losing the chance to fight for the crown. But I also play like the 3 matches later on, and to be honest, my first match also I felt the most tough one, because that match not only my opponent, it was Hambi Kalenu from India. At that moment, she's also a very strong player with high rating. But also talking about the match itself, or whatever from the preparation, also according to the progress of the match, there were some up and down moments. Mm-hmm. I think in the middle of the match, like 6th or 5th games, they're really like key turning points. But later on, I get used to it, and also later on, I think the match was kind of not that difficult, but of course, there's a lot of challenges as well.
We talk a lot about the psychology of the players, about Magnus Carlsen being the world champion, and that he won in 2013 his title, mm-hmm. and then later on he defended it 2 times. You have the experience. What is more experience, to reach to become a world champion or to defending your title?
I thought that there's some difference. For Magnus, I thought I would assume that probably it's more difficult while you approach this qualification, while you get qualified to play the match. Actually, it's already very difficult. To win, it's even more difficult. But defend it, it's kind of you don't need to start from the scratch. While comparing from my point back to a few years ago, actually, I tried to defend. No, actually, I was not trying to defend. I won the match, but then I didn't play the knockout system, and then I need to qualify from the Grand Prix and became, we call the challenger, to challenge the title again. So it's kind of different. But while talking about the current men's system, I would think that to get the place to become the challenger would be more difficult because we have, there are a lot of strong players to qualify and to win from the candidates, or even to qualify to the candidates. It's not that easy.
Well, that's what Fabiano achieved in March in Berlin.
Yeah.
It was really tight. It's true that not to be here facing Magnus Carlsen was already quite a big journey for the American to get here.
Yeah, exactly. And also the previous candidates, I remember there were 3 players in
Yes.
tie, right? So like recent 2 years, they're always a very, very competitive field.
Fabiano almost qualified for the New York match. He was just head-to-head by the end with Karyakin, and in the end it was Sergei who got there, but it just depended on the last game. So you're right that to be able to challenge the world champion is already very difficult. We were also thinking from Magnus's point of view, he's always saying that it's, whether he's saying it or not, but he's showing that being world number 1 is part of his identity. And we feel like he, now, for the first time in his life, he feels more pressure, that he was so close to, first of all, to being caught on the rating list. There's only 3 rating points between him and Fabiano. Do you think that now he really does feel this pressure that, oh, what if I lose? Like if he's afraid of that?
Well, I just assume that probably that's not exactly the case. Of course, we all admit that Fabiano is very strong, and probably the match would be relatively even or maybe really close. And the rating also just 3 points difference. But if we're trying to think from Magnus' perspective, so probably he's the number 1 already for a long time,
yes.
And he became the world champion since 2013. So probably he's kind of a little bit lacking of the motivation trying to defend the title if we compare to Fabiano, who's 2 years younger and who didn't win the world championship match before. So he's definitely with full preparation, full of energy, and really eager to win. So probably that's a kind of difference from psychological point of view. But as a player, all of us started from the very beginning. We suffered from losses and we grew up. Then we tried to win the tournaments, become master, grandmaster. So we already have a kind of the nerve to tackle with the difficulties, to accept some, negative results, and then we can become stronger. So I assume in case to reach the level like Magnus, he wouldn't be that too afraid of the lost, and instead of maybe he's just trying to achieve the best he can and trying to explore the potential.
Yes, and prove that he is the best once again. How do you see today's game? If we turn back our attention to, you can see the current
Rook
position
D8.
here.
Yeah, I was following during my way to London, and I noticed that Fabiano had a very good home preparation in the opening, but somehow after he played Queen C7 exchange, starting from this move Bishop C3, he started to spend quite some time, which made me actually a bit confused because after Rook A8, it seems, White doesn't have so many options. But okay, now this position, I was
Rook
thinking...
D8 happened in the meantime. It was the last pair of moves. It was King B6. Mm-hmm. You can see this was an interesting plan. Mm-hmm. And White played Bishop D2. And Black just played Rook D8. This is what we are having on the board. So we are discussing that probably Knight C3 is the move, but for some strange reason, Fabiano is spending quite a lot of time here.
Yeah, Knight C3 looks quite natural. It's either maybe Knight A4, Knight C5.
Yeah, that's what we thought about, that knight c3, but I don't know what else white can come up here.
He has been thinking for over 10 minutes, so it is actually surprising that he played this idea bishop to d2, preparing for knight c3, but now he is considering something else as well.
Well, maybe b5 is something to be considered. Trying to gain activity, because I don't think black would be taking on b5, as after that
Maybe a check.
knight c3, and if black goes back to b6, then rook b1, and then possibly knight b5 check afterwards,
King c7.
or knight a4.
Yeah, maybe knight a4 instead of rook b1. You mean
Instead
now?
of rook b1. Maybe instead of rook b1,
Yeah.
knight a4. And then king c7, knight c5.
Bishop c8, probably.
Sorry, bishop c8 or bishop g4 is also possible to force matters. Bishop c8.
Yeah, with idea b6.
Yeah, it seems like white is not so fine here.
Bishop to e3 check has just been played by Fabiano after 12 minutes of thinking. That's neither b5 nor knight c3.
Well, he's going to be pushing black to go to king b5.
And then
The question is, what happens? Knight c3, king b4.
Probably knight d5 here. I'm not sure if that works. Probably not, because
Well, knight d5, bishop d5, e takes d5.
rook d5 check, and maybe king c3.
If rook d5, king c3. Black is not going to be shy. He's going to move ahead. But then, if rook b7,
Yeah, very interesting.
maybe e4 is possible.
No,
But here
e4,
I think
bishop
white,
d2 check. So
king d3.
rook f7 take.
But here, no, but I think white has enough, just knight d2. No? Knight d2 and rook f7 after that, possibly. So let's see go back and see what black is up to. Well, I think knight d4 is blocking the rook. That's not what black wants to have. No, after that, white would be going knight c3, and the rook on d8 is not very useful at this point. So I think the big question is king b5. Check, king b4, knight d5. What about takes? Yeah, bishop e3 seems like a good move.
Yeah, it seems like quite forcing. And here has to take on d5, and then we reach again the.
sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, actually bishop e3 is a very promising move, because if king c7, black goes back. What about going king a6?
Then
It
probably
doesn't look good. Mate on
maybe b,
a1.
yeah, or at least b5 would reach the same position as the
Yeah.
minimum.
Well, not
Yeah,
exactly,
but
but
even
knight
knight
c3 I
c3,
think is even
yeah.
better. It's just I self-mated myself.
Well,
knight
you can
d4.
put it b5, but
You can always go wrong. Actually, maybe knight d4 will be black has to play for a win, I think.
but it's hardly to see that after knight d4, black is going to play for a win.
Yeah, I think maybe bishop e3 was underestimated by black.
Judging from Magnus's facial expression, it certainly is not a pleasant decision now.
Well, okay, the game can go knight c3, king b5, knight c3, king b4, knight d5, takes, rook d5. What about playing king a4? or yeah, king a4. And after rook b7 to go rook d3. At least
maybe
the
some-
mate is threatening.
Move like G3.
King f1 or g3.
Oh, maybe king.
Yeah. But, well, maybe e4.
Knight G5.
Knight g5. Well, it shouldn't be at all problem for white, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Magnus is realizing that he's not going to win this game.
If that is the situation, can Fabiano have winning chances? If he can
Wow.
create winning chances. Now, first it was about whether he can survive, but now let's turn the tables. Can
Well,
he?
I think it's more Magnus who can create winning chances for Fabiano.
For Fabiano, if he wants to, if he's willing to collaborate.
I mean, yeah, definitely collaboration is needed, I think.
I think that will make us have another poll because we have been asking our live audience to try to guess the result, and about 50% of the audience thought it was going to be a draw, and another 50% of our audience decided it was a win for black, for Magnus. I'm wondering if it's the same situation now. So can we please have your hands up if you still think it's going to be a draw? Okay. What about Magnus winning, as we said earlier? Okay, still
some
plenty.
optimistic people.
And Fabiano winning? Nobody voted Fabi win earlier. One brave gentleman, one brave man. Thank you very much. Well, still, it looks like black's position is more promising to our audience. I think the draw had a little bit more votes, a few more.
Yeah.
But Magnus is not making a move just yet. Ifan, I'm going to ask for your prediction in terms of the result. We always ask our guests.
How
If
about
he-
the king c7 here? Additional
C7.
question, which we didn't discuss before. I know it looks,
True.
passive, but
Well, first of all, white can play knight c3, no? Well, okay, you go rook d3. b5, knight d4. What about rook c1? Maybe that's what I would be doing. Rook c1.
yeah, rook c1.
So to thread b5 immediately. Besides that, if black goes back king c7, then this whole king b6 plan was admitting it that this is not the right direction.
And it's always difficult for the players to admit that actually your previous plan was wrong.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you better do so.
Before it's too late.
Yeah. But I think after rook c1, black is not reaching anywhere. Because if
But
you have to
that
go
leaves
back...
us with king b5.
Well, or knight d4, what we were
Yes, and
discussing.
knight d4,
so
those two
after
options.
knight d4, knight c3, I mean, black can go maybe, well, rook c8, knight e2, right?
Yeah.
This is the problem for black. And then actually white is gaining something. Yeah, it's not clear. I wouldn't bet on the black side now.
A move has been played by Magnus
Wow,
Carlsen and king to
king
b5. Game on.
King b5. So let's see. Is there anything else than knight c3? Well, knight c3, king b4, knight d5 check. What about playing here king a3? Let's say king a3. Well,
How
still,
about rook b1? Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't
Again,
seem...
there's some threat, bishop c5, knight c3.
Yeah. Actually, even bishop c5 could be a move as well.
Nice c3 check is on the board. King takes b4 by Magnus Carlsen.
Knight d5 will be on the board, I think. Not much of thinking. Yeah, it seems like White got back with this maneuver of bishop
Yeah.
d2. Knight d5 we have on the board.
Is indeed on the board. Another question, whether it's captured. Yes, bishop takes e5.
Absolutely.
Immediately played by Magnus. E takes
E takes
d5.
d5. Well, we may not have a too long game from this point on.
No, Judy, don't tell us that it could be over soon, although it's heading toward a very simplified position, unfortunately.
Rook d5. Well, I think rook b1 will be appearing on the board in a second.
The players took quite some time to reach the position earlier, but now they're blitzing out their moves because it's all a very forcing variation.
Will Magnus think? I think he's just going to go king c3. Not going to be hesitating too long. King c3, rook b7.
Yeah.
Well, king d3,
98.
knight d8.
Thanks for the suggestion to Grandmaster Nostruder from Switzerland. I was also going to invite him on the stage if the game is long enough for Noel to join us.
It comes to join.
Yeah, knight d3 is knight d8 is an unpleasant move.
How about rook c7
Rook
and knight
c- knight g5, no?
Yeah, h4 probably. Because the knight is kind of stuck in.
Yeah, knight on d8 is not so
But then
active.
king can go via e4, f5, e6. Oh no, but bishop g5, okay.
h4.
F6.
h4 is possible. Well, it seems like white is really active.
So in all these positions, just to sum up what's happening is that white has a pawn down, but his pieces, his active pieces compensate for the lack of material. King c3
King
is on the
C3
board.
is on the board.
Is there anything else besides rook takes b7? Adjusting the board.
Yeah.
Hope this won't make it to Twitter like the other day when whether Magnus touched his knight without saying Shadow. It's not the story of the game. Is there any other move that you think he is considering, or he will just capture on b7?
Unlikely.
I don't think
Just
so.
simply
Yeah.
calculating what's happening afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think he's just double checking that e4 is not working. Also.
Important not to get back rank mates suddenly. So if rook takes b7, e4, this
Yeah,
pawn
this is-
cannot be captured
yeah.
because of rook d1.
But then already d takes e4 is possible.
Yeah.
And rook d2 is not possible on that.
Can we just show it on the board so that everyone can understand that rook takes d2, bishop takes, king takes, and the knight on d8 will be picked up in the end. Otherwise, it would be a good variation for black.
And then rook d8. So there is not e4 would be actually danger. Well, not danger black too much, but it's it will not work, I think. Interesting that white is hesitating.
Yes, what,
I mean,
what
there
else
is
to
not
think?
much to
Just the resulting
hesitate
position.
about. I mean, can he think? No, can he think maybe knight g5?
No, he has just
No, but he
taken on
just played
d7. It
knight
must have been what
d7.
Ifan said, that he was simply calculating the resulting position.
Knight d8.
Immediately played by Magnus. Well done, Noel. Okay, so what options does Fabiano have here? Not so many.
Well, I think White has to keep his rook on c7 to stay active. And actually, rook c7 is very forcing. Yeah, this is the key issue, whether knight g5 is... can black have any concrete chance with king e2, for example? But then rook c2, I think. No, that's the simplest. And actually black can... Well, it's a nice mate to get. Oh, no, it's not a mate yet. No, but it's not mate yet. Even
It
this,
looked like
no, I thought
There's always
it's a
one
mate.
square. No.
No, but rook c2 then, so it's not possible.
I still find it impressive that this black king has taken this whole long journey coming from e8, then to d7, c7, b6, b5, b4. From b4 it went to c3 and then d3. Like how many moves were those? And the white king, all it has done was castle kingside. Like what happened during all those tempi? What was white doing? I feel like he could have...
Well,
could have
finally he
improved his
activated his
position.
rook and the bishop.
Yes, and he was struggling with the knight on b1, of course. That took some time to develop the knight. Of course, this is just a fun feature that the black king has
What do you
played
think
so
will
many
be the
moves.
outcome of the game?
This game?
Yeah?
Probably draw, but I have a feeling that only the white who might try to fight for something. It seems to me unlikely that the black is trying to win the game at this moment.
So even though at the moment black is a pawn up, Ifan is saying that the active pieces will give at least draw chances to Fabiano, if not some hope for trying to win. Well, then our live audience won't be right for the first time. Or just one gentleman who might be right, actually. Let's not forget, there was one vote for Fabiano winning today. Judith, how do you see this endgame?
Well, I see that Fabiano has great activity, which he was lacking, like around the king b6 part of the game. But I think he should have enough compensation after giving up the pawn on d3 after rook c7. Because after all, black's pieces are not very active. The d8 knight is not active at all. It is very much in defense. Also the g7 bishop not necessarily too active. The rook on c7 is attacking. So I would bet on a draw after all.
A draw as
Yeah.
well. Very brave. Thank you so much, Ifan, for joining us. I think I will let you go so that you can see the venue before the game is over. You said that this was your first stop here in the studio, and we would like you to make it to the actual playing venue as well, so that you can see the players. There's double glass that divides the auditorium and the playing area. It's been a pleasure having you here. I feel very honored to be sitting next to the two greatest female players in history. And once again, please join us if you come by another time from Oxford. I know you must be very busy, but it's been great having you here.
Sure, my pleasure. Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. In the meantime, Magnus has left the board after the move,
Knight
knight
d8.
d8, because Fabiano is still thinking.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of idea Magnus will be having here, and what Fabiano is thinking after all. I was wondering that it's also possible that White would be playing, let's say, rook to a7, but in that case, e4 can be an unpleasant surprise for White. Of course, rook c7 is the most obvious and inviting move. Actually, I was also thinking to come back to rook b1, which is kind of passive. But it's not inviting. Anyway, black will be taking on the e3. So absolutely rook c7 is the move which is the most inviting. And I think simply Fabiano wants to calculate it all the way. If there is any kind of unpleasant thing may happen to him. What about bishop h6? This is what we are discussing, and after that h4. Because if white would go knight f7, then black could get some winning chances probably, but even here it wouldn't be clear. Knight f7, rook f7, bishop e3. Now there are two moves to be considered. Rook f3 is a move, but then probably black would be going to c4 or c2, and then f takes e3. I think this should be also draw without any problem for white actually. So actually knight f7 is also possible to be taken the pawn, and if after bishop e3, well, knight d8 would be losing because of bishop b6, but what about taking back? And then king e3. So this is how white could still get in trouble if he would be taking on f7 immediately. That's why we were discussing h4 for the moment, stabilize the knight. And if black would be taking on g5, then bishop g5 would be the reply. And I don't see how black would be able to try to play for a win, to be honest.
Neither black.
Well, here black maybe can try to play, well, if f6, then I think rook h7 is the move, but maybe after that bishop g5, h takes g5, f5. So actually black may try to get something.
Rook c7 check is indeed on the board, so all the variations that Judith and Irfan have been analyzing, they still may be possible. This was the obvious move, but it still took some time for Fabiano. He spent 7 minutes on whether to play rook c7 or not.
Well, he just didn't want to rush into it, I think. But after here f6, I think knight h7 is actually probably the move. And after bishop e3, f takes e3. But actually here knight f6 might be a continuation as well for white. As after rook d6, f takes e3 is possible, because after rook f6, rook d7. King e3, rook d8, and it's a fact that black has a passed pawn, but white will have enough counterplay bringing the king. And then have the
Judith, shall we celebrate if it's going to be yet another rook endgame?
Well, yeah, we had quite a few interesting endgames actually, and rook endgames. Well, it may happen.
21
easily.
minutes left for Fabiano. This is currently move. What move is it actually? I
It's
don't see
move
here.
27,
27. So
28, after
28.
king d3.
he has to play
Yeah.
12 more moves to get an additional 50 minutes. It's a slight time pressure, not so much at the moment. Depends on how fast he's going to make his next moves, of course.
Well, even h3 immediately, h4 immediately, I think it could be also kind of an active move. But of course, knight g5 is the inviting continuation here.
I just wanted to highlight that on the website of World Chess, there are interesting statements about how the game is going. Another statement is, Carlsen's king has now captured 3 pawns. So it's not just a
Yeah.
long journey that this king has done, but the king itself captured 3 pawns.
Yeah, in this game, c7, b4, and d3.
By the white king, 0 for the moment.
It's not going to capture any pawns.
Okay, Judith says so. We're going to get some help once again. we already announced that Grandmaster Noel Studer was sitting here in the audience. He suggested knight d8 instantly, and Magnus Carlsen played it. Of course, welcome to the studio, Noel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Noel, is it... I was just going to add that Noel is even younger than the players. I believe we are 22 years old.
Yeah.
Grandmaster, one of the top players of Switzerland, and he is here visiting. Is it the first day that you are here, or have you been here during the previous rounds as
No,
well?
I just arrived yesterday, and today is the first and Saturday the last day. But
First and last.
Well, I
Okay, so
gotta
we caught
enjoy
you
it,
in the
yeah.
right moment. We got you, we got you. How do you enjoy the venue? How do you like it here?
well, it's actually really nice. I like it. I mean, I've never been to a World Championship match, so I thought it's got to be time. I wanted 2 years ago to go to New York, but okay, New York is not just a jump away. So I thought, yeah, let's visit London because I've never been here actually, and yeah, I have a great time till.
How do you enjoy so far today's game? If this is the first time and last time you are here, are you satisfied with how the players are on the day when you are visiting?
Yeah, actually, I was just worried that there will be some kind of a fast draw. You know, I come one day and then they just, 1.5 hours and bye-bye. So I was happy to see some excitement. Actually, those that know me know that I'm not very objective, so I'm a huge Magnus fan. So, so I was a bit worried in the beginning, but yeah, now. Okay, might not be something objectively, but I think he's enjoying his grind and knowing that probably he is the only one winning that position. He enjoys himself at the moment.
You think that Black has chances of winning because Magnus is famous for his endgame technique and grinding any position?
Well, I still think that, yeah, for Black there should be some way out if he decides to want to make a draw. Actually, I didn't see. Was there any move? No.
King takes d3,
A king f1.
and
yeah?
King f1
King
was
F1.
played by Fabiano.
Okay. I mean, he might get trapped with his king somewhere, but no, I think like the most likely result is a draw. We gotta have a draw soon probably, but yeah, proves that yeah, it's somehow a strange game. White has a huge prep, and suddenly Black is better. I mean, nobody understands what happened exactly. Yeah, actually, the c3 I wasn't that sure if c3 c takes b was the right, but what then? It's a good question. Yeah, after rook a8,
Yes.
I was just inside, like looking at the players, and somehow I had the feeling that he is very happy. Magnus playing rook a8, he was somehow relieved and just went off the board. So yeah, that might be some turning moment, but yeah, as I said, probably a draw. We'll have once more.
I see some kind of tricks going on.
Okay, let's see,
If
Judith.
Black goes bishop f6, what do you think about a move g4?
G4 is Judith's trademark, so
Ah.
if she can play it in every analysis, then we are happy.
And
Yeah, so my king is never going back again, yeah? H5.
H5 has been played by
H5.
Magnus Carlsen.
You see, he smelled g4.
Yeah, he smelled it.
Preventing G4. Preventing G4 is clear. He
He
saw
wanted
it
to make
coming.
sure
He
G4
saw
is
it
not
coming.
Yeah, somehow it's a weird position. Because I thought these lines, which Ifan pointed out, with knight g5, h4, didn't find anything for Black, so
But
I
think
don't know
now,
if Fabiano
anyway,
wasn't liking these positions, or if he thinks, okay, I have for sure a draw and I will try to play on.
But maybe anyway knight g5, and he has the idea if bishop h6, then really taking on f7.
Yeah,
Uh,
bishop
But
e3,
bishop E3.
once more, yeah.
Bishop e3. Yeah, f takes e3, king e3. This is not funny.
Yeah, this is still, and now
To
that I
get
have
mate.
h5, actually all these
It's much
lines
better.
with f6 are working
Yeah.
because h7 is not hanging. So probably he's trying something against the Black king on d3, but I can't come up with something.
Well, bishop g5, what do you think? Well, then e4. No, bishop g5 maybe?
Bishop g5 might be a move. So I gotta do something.
Well,
yeah?
with the idea
e4, I gotta.
Well, after e4, just simply knight e1 check.
And if I Yeah.
And you go back, bishop d8 and grabbing
this
on
is-
f7. It's
Yeah. This is never win.
completely draw.
So if I play knight e6 maybe first, but also you take just an f7. and-
Well, anyway, probably just takes on f7 and on e4 always knight e1 check.
Yeah, this. I mean, optically it looks a bit nicer for black, but shouldn't be anything. Yeah.
Unless you get mated.
Yeah, well, it might also look nice, but then for white. Yeah.
Well, if,
And that's not the outcome you wanted. Sorry, I was just going to say, Noah, you mentioned that you're a big Magnus fan. I was going to ask you, like, when did you become such a huge fan of the world champion? Was it before he won the title already?
Actually, it's funny because in the beginning, like when he got number one and so on, I thought, no, he's playing so boring chess. You know, I was enjoying more the likes of Morozevich, for example, or
Yeah.
Obviously Judith also played some hugely, interesting games. But then at some point, I mean, what he's doing not only on the chessboard but also outside of the chess world, I really love it because, I try the same like. For myself in Switzerland, obviously I'm a much smaller number, but trying a bit with media and trying to sell chess as a sport. And I mean, Magnus is just doing it magnificent. I mean, also his team, obviously, is not only himself.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to
He has
say,
a great
that to have a
management
team,
and
it
so on.
helps.
Yeah, obviously that helps to have so many people in Norway putting that into chess. But yeah, I also recently I begin to also love his interviews because he's so honest. In the beginning, you always felt like, okay, yeah, somebody's interviewing him, but he really wants to go. And now he's just speaking out what he feels, and which makes him, very, very interesting also as a person, what he feels, and obviously also his film was interesting. So it's like all the things also together with his chess, obviously. He is playing great chess.
Indeed, it's impressive everything that Magnus has done to promote chess and simply the ways in which we didn't think of chess. Like, who would have thought that
H3.
H3, G4,
Who would have thought
yeah?
that H3? G4 is the
You see?
threat.
But
Fabi is
I
not
don't
giving
think
up
F5
to win
is
this
coming,
game.
Yeah.
I just didn't dare to say H3. You know, it's like kind of too much, isn't it?
No,
It's very
if we can
interesting.
play G4. So what's next for black? Allowing G4. And what happens if G4 will actually be played?
Well, I think he can still King E4. He might bail out, yeah, if he.
Well,
If he gets
wa-
afraid, yeah.
he shows that he's really scared.
Yeah.
This means that he's
King
really
E4 is
scared.
like, okay, I agree.
Goes knight G5, King F5. Yeah, knight F7.
Yeah, takes Bishop F6 and.
Yeah, but it means
Well,
already he
yeah,
says that
it's-
I'm happy
shows
with the
some
draw.
weakness. Yeah, he won't do it. I don't think so.
I mean, he is the one who has a pawn up, right? What about knight E6? Well, you just take the pawn.
It's somehow hard to come up with a move.
Well, let's see how he gets mated after bishop F6. if
If it can happen.
Because it has to be a problem after bishop F6, otherwise it's
Yeah.
it's an unpleasant move, because after that already king E4 really is a threat. So G4.
Oh, he is bailing out.
Oh.
King
yeah, he's
E4.
running back.
He doesn't like to do this move, I think.
But maybe he's going to go king E4, knight G5,
And then
king
knight E6.
knight
yeah.
E6, yeah. Knight F7, knight E6.
Knight G5 check is on the board. King F5 to be expected
Well,
from
yeah,
Magnus.
Well, he
Where
can
is
go
that
king
knight
D3
going, yeah?
also, but he's going to go king F5, I think. Yeah.
King F5. Knight takes F7 should be the move of white.
Actually, by now they can agree to a draw. You know, we have this rule that until before move 30 they cannot offer a draw.
Ah, okay. Yeah. But there are always, these
Yeah.
kind of move repetitions.
Yeah,
and
but
so
that's
on.
not so easy already.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, just to say I offer a draw, it's kind of easier
Yeah.
in principle, but they are forbidden to do that.
I don't think. Oh,
Oh,
he plays knight G5
Fabiano
and now he goes to think. Yeah.
started thinking. That's interesting.
Actually, what I thought was interesting, last time we commented together, I was against Magnus, yeah?
Yes.
As a huge Magnus fan.
I was like, Noel is saying that he's a big Magnus fan, so just to put it in context, last time Noel was sitting next to me in the studio, it was the Biel Chess Festival, when Magnus started out very well, winning 2 out of 2, and the third game too he was winning, but somehow slipped out of his hands, and the second half of the event he couldn't win games. So we saw a very disappointed Magnus. He was very disappointed with his own play. And yes, in that game you weren't rooting for him so much
Yeah.
because
It was my countryman, so
Yeah.
you gotta hope for the underdogs to show something, and it was a draw in the end. So
yes,
it might just be if I'm here, then it's always a
you
draw,
bring
yeah.
bad luck to Magnus.
So it's better I go home tomorrow, yeah.
You think he's going to go knight e6 to play for a win, or goes knight f7 draw?
Oh, knight takes
Knight
f7
f7
has
draw.
played.
The draw
Has been
offer.
played by
This
Magnus.
is the draw offer.
Yeah.
Bishop
think-
f6 and game over as a draw.
Yeah.
Bishop
Shake hands, yeah.
f6. Do you think that with knight
what
e6
was
he
with
could
knight
have
d6?
tried?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was stupid if he didn't try it, but is there
I
knight
don't know,
h6?
knight, yeah, I mean, I was just thinking knight e6,
No, knight
you
h6.
go away, rook a7.
Knight h6, yeah?
But the rook is hanging on c7.
Yeah, knight h6 check and rook f7? I mean,
Sorry.
I don't know.
Simply knight h6. Yeah, well, I don't know.
It looks a bit weird also there.
Takes, bishop takes, jack, king e4, g5, knight f4.
Yeah, maybe still I get into trouble. Yeah?
But
Can you just make those
But
moves on the board
I'm
so
sure
that everyone
somewhere
can...
there
Oh,
should be.
Okay, g4
g4
check.
on the board.
Yes,
Okay, yeah. I should do it.
finally, it's on the board. And a handshake. Now, this has been a very exciting draw. I think no one can complain about this game.
Absolutely, a lot of interesting already from the beginning, starting from b4.
Yes.
So from the,
Was nice to see that in a World Championship match, actually.
it's a brave decision. It was he wanted a challenge.
Both
Magnus.
probably will feel they had chances. I mean, Fabiano, if he has
Yeah.
such a huge preparation, he wants to get something out of that game. And Magnus, maybe as you said, b5 instead of king b6 might have been that
I think
that
b5
slow
was
Magnus
unpleasant,
grind. Yeah.
right?
Now we can go back to the discussion with Danny if he was a bit not
Sorry,
enough.
I need to interrupt you.
Yeah.
We are going to try to listen to the players.
Instead of king c3.
Yeah, take. And what do you do?
No, e4.
And then rook f4. This is.
e4.
Yeah, this is.
Well, something it's very clear that Magnus has missed, according what I saw, when he was like really very upset what he's.
Magnus stays in the playing venue. Now they will attend the interviews. First, the Norwegian television will have access to the players, and later we will also get a one-on-one interview with both of them, and then the press conference. So if you are sitting here with us, you can stay and you will be able to listen to the interviews, or you can try to get into the press room. Basically, it's the auditorium that turns into the press conference. I don't know how crowded it is. Usually in the pictures,
it's fully packed. Absolutely. I mean,
Noel, you said that this was the only day you came from, on a scale from 1 to 10. How happy are you with the game for your visit?
Well, I'd go for something above 5, but let's say 6 or 7.
Oh,
The result wasn't the right one, in my opinion. So, as I'm not an official commentator, I can be very a fanboy, let's say. But yeah, I mean, it's a great match. They are both great players, and I just hope that we see some more great games. It will be interesting what Magnus does with two whites, because he wasn't inspiring, in my opinion, with white. So that will be very interesting to see if he can maybe move his e-pawn once in a while, and
well, he
then
has
we'll
two
see
chances coming up.
Yeah, maybe some prominent guy will do the wrong move e4, and then he opts for it. I don't know how we can make him play e4, but no, I mean, it will be interesting, obviously.
Mentioning his two white games, I'm sure you follow social media and the news about what happened during Game 4 or before Game 4 with this footage of Fabiano's training camp and the screen of Fabiano's computer showing some of the lines that they were analyzing. How much do you think this will have an effect on the match? It was with the black pieces, so in those two games with white, will Magnus be able to exploit this information?
Actually, I think I didn't follow if it was really not intended or whatever, but probably it wasn't. And then it's more uncomfortable for Fabiano just to have something like that than real chess-wise. I don't think it will be a huge problem. I mean, these are files that they weren't opened, luckily for him. And I mean, he was expected to play along these lines. So it's not that Magnus now has like huge informations or whatever. So, but if you feel that, you're somebody that supports you, puts a video online that can hurt you, it's like, okay, obviously they didn't meant to do it, but this might be just some concentration going off that. But I don't think this will be a key point in the match. I think, just the strong one will win, and Magnus got to show something with white in order to get some squeeze out of the opening, because the first two games weren't convincing, in my opinion. So, maybe he would need a double black. I don't know, after this game again. It looked like with black he feels very comfortable. We'll see what happens.
Judith, what's your take on that and today's game?
Well, today's game, I think it was very interesting. Fabiano was very much straightforward. He knew until a point what he was doing. I'm very curious what he's going to say in the press conference, what was the turning point from his point of view, because it was quite confusing for me to see that until C3, he was kind of very comfortable and kind of knowing what he's doing. So I have kind of the feeling that there was a misjudgment in the preparation. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, and also the question about till when Magnus was prepared, I am also not sure what I should think. I think there is a possibility that he knew that it is somewhere along these lines, because, for example, this move d6, he played very fast, and at least to me, it isn't so obvious that this must be the move.
But he's the world champion.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. He might just have the intuition for the positions.
I think he can do those things. Because it's kind of the position it's his kind of game, and he understood that he shouldn't be afraid even if he's caught in some unpleasant or unexpected openings. And you have to understand that b4 shouldn't kill you, right?
Yeah.
Immediately. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I would be very curious, and probably we're not going to get an answer on that.
Problem,
that's the problem.
There needs to be another video footage on the Magnus side, maybe something like that.
I'm curious if we will have those questions first asked by the journalists. Let's hope that they will ask those key moments from the game and what the players will answer. It's not, of course, preparation is always such a sensitive area. They usually can't really reveal until which point they had it prepared, and that could give some information on the upcoming games. It's not like a round robin where they have one game against that player and then it's okay to talk about the preparation. Here, it's always the same face in front of you, the same team against you. And they should be very careful with what they say.
Well, I have the feeling that this 6 or 7 before, it was for one game. What do you think?
One game preparation?
Yeah,
I think it was a one-game show.
Because if the team of Magnus didn't expect it, they will now. He has some guys working. They will for sure take some time to analyze it well, and he will be completely prepared for it next game if there will be something along these lines. So it's also interesting to see what Fabiano will do after he gets again a white, because he was now always changing something along the Rossolimo lines, but mostly like one game preparations, which you don't really know, was it only now at the match because maybe he didn't expect that c5 knight c6, or was it before, or is it a mix of, well, I had this one idea, it didn't work, and now what are we going to do? So very interesting. And also if Magnus sticks to his c5 knight c6 all the time Sicilian, definitely.
But what else should he play? Should he go e5 and Berlin, where he got caught quite a few times
Yeah,
against Fabiano.
that is true. Yeah,
So you have alternatives, but c5 seems to be a good one.
yeah. I mean, he gets his 2 bishops. Again today, after a bit of a struggle, he got his 2 bishops and an ending, so he got his position.
Okay, the Rossolimo is not such a big achievement. Let's face it.
Well, but how they changed it was a bit strange. Yeah, A3, A6.
Yeah,
but
that was a very funny exchange of pieces.
Still, yeah,
Today for the first time, yes.
Yeah, it will be interesting what they do because it reveals a lot about openings, obviously.
We shall head to the press conference as the players already arrived.
The World Championship match has been drawn in 34 moves. A game that started very excitingly, but then somehow calmed down again. I'd like to ask Fabiano first. Well, what happened? You started playing very quickly, and then at a certain point, you obviously consumed lots of time. What happened there?
Yeah, well, this line is really interesting, and if black is cooperative, it can get also very, very exciting. But Magnus knew the line quite well, and I think played it in a very, very logical way. And the endgame we got, of course, it wasn't forced. I mean, there are a lot of options. Probably the position after queen c4 is more or less new, and black does have options here like queen c7 or knight c6. But queen a5 is a very direct way to play it. And I guess the endgame we got is more or less balanced. I was briefly thinking about queen a5 d4, but...
Sorry, queen a5?
d4, but I mean, it's ridiculous and probably losing for white.
Which is probably a good reason not to go for it. Okay.
But I still spent some time thinking about this because it was fun, like queen a1.
You mean it's not always fun, what you play?
Well, the endgame is not so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, actually, did you think you were seriously worse at some point in the endgame?
No, I never thought I was worse. No.
Never thought you were worse?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I was trying to find some way to play it, and I mean, after rook a8, I just figured this is a moment when I have to figure out how to play this position. So I came up with this idea of putting the bishop on d2 and activating my knight. I mean, I also thought about knight c3, but I couldn't make it work instead of bishop. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it would work, but after knight b4, I mean, I have moves like rook b1 or rook c1, but the knight comes to d3 and nothing ever seems to work out. So, and yeah, I mean, king b6. Of course, black also has multiple ways to play his position, but the way we played, I guess, was pretty logical.
Yeah. Magnus, what was your feeling about the game, just in general?
Well, to be honest, I was pretty happy about the opening. I felt as though after it calmed down, only black can never really be better. But I couldn't find a way to push, and as Fabiano mentioned, this plan with bishop d2 as he came up with, I mean I realized after bishop c3, I thought for a while and I realized that was his plan, but I couldn't see a way to avoid it.
So basically, a fair result. You kind of neutralized each other, basically.
Yeah, I think like I didn't have to go king b6. I could go b5 just to block instead.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and
bishop
I
d2.
thought bishop d2, and I wasn't so sure, because I mean if white goes knight d2 at any point, black is very comfortable and pushing, but yeah, bishop d2, and I don't know. If there is a way at all to play for an advantage, the path is very, very narrow. And yeah, again, in the game, it's just all forced and neutral.
Okay, good. Well, let me throw it open for questions from journalists. And if you'd like to say who you are and who you're working for. So yes, please.
From Jørund, NRK in Norway, to Magnus. Norwegian experts are saying this is the best opening you've done in your whole World Championship career. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think whether I ever won any games in the opening and or had a serious advantage in any game. Probably not. No, I mean, once against Visha, I was clearly better after the opening, so twice. So I'm not so sure. But no, I mean, I think that's greatly exaggerated. But obviously, I was happy to get this position after the opening, since it's safe for black, and at least superficially, it looks like there might even be options to play for more. So clearly, it was a great success.
Okay, next question, please, Mike.
Mike Klein with chess.com. Questions for Magnus Carlsen. This is the third straight Sicilian, and of course, we keep seeing a Rossolimo. Of course, this one was much different, but is there ever any concern continuing playing the same opening that more surprises will be in store for you?
I mean, I think that's it's pretty obvious that if we both insist on the same opening, then there are going to be alterations and surprises. But we'll see what happens in the future. So far, I feel like I've done reasonably well in the opening duels. Obviously, the last black game wasn't so great after the opening, but at least the game was okay. So we'll see what happens.
We should probably ask Fabiano if there are going to be any more surprises here, but okay, I'm not going to insist. Okay, next question, please. Yeah, John.
Hi, John Lee Shaw from hotofthechess.com. I'd like to ask the same question to both players. Magnus now has 2 whites in the next 2 games. Did you feel it very important to strike today before those 2 games? And I think it's fair to say that Magnus didn't have any problems today in this game. Do you feel disappointed and that you've missed a chance to strike in this game? And also to Magnus, do you feel that a little bit of control now has been handed to you for the next 2 games in the match?
Okay, well, let's start with Fabiano. Was your intention to, well, b4 is obviously a very aggressive move and initiates some complications. So was that part of your match strategy, considering that you're going to have 2 blacks in a row now?
Well, I mean, I can only play for a win if I get something, and I can only really be disappointed that I missed a chance if I get some sort of chance in the game. And if a game is like this, where we both play more or less correctly, and neither of us makes a serious mistake, I don't think that I can really be disappointed. And yeah, of course, the double black is coming up, and this is quite a serious challenge. But this was always going to happen, and whether I win or draw it, I mean, this is still going to happen. So I wasn't approaching this game any differently than any other game. No.
Right. So I suppose the question is, are you looking forward to your 2 whites?
Yeah, I guess it's like any round robin tournament. If you have a double black or a double white, you kind of single that out as when the tournament starts, as that is either your opportunity to strike or when you're at your most vulnerable. So I'm looking forward to it, obviously, and we'll see what happens. But it's I mean, most of all, I'm just more or less happy with the way things are going with black, and as is clear to the naked eye, there is serious room for improvement as white. So.
Okay, next question, please. Yes.
Thanks. John Brazina with the Colorado State Chess Association and the Denver Chess Club. First, thanks to both of the players for your time. Back in the States, we have seen an increase in the number of young players at our clubs. When I ask of their favorite player, both of your names come up often. I won't say which one more. Can either of you offer advice to the young players to stay and advance with the game? And also, who are your favorite players now at your level versus earlier in your careers?
Okay.
Thank you.
Fabiano, do your best with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that in the U.S. chess is increasing popularity, especially with kids and in schools, and you know, it's showing. Now we have younger and younger grandmasters coming up, and one day I'm sure some of them will be top players, and maybe potentially there are some future world champions out there. So I mean, if they enjoy the game and if they love working on it, then I encourage them to keep doing that. I'm not sure I remember the second question.
Favorite players, yeah. Any favorite players?
Of the past, or?
Well, at your level now versus earlier, maybe when you started your career, has it changed your perspective and your favorite players?
I mean, I've gone through phases when I study like a players' games, and I gain an appreciation for how they played. So yeah, I mean, in terms of play, Fischer is still definitely up there. I mean, maybe not my absolute favorite player, but in terms of the results he achieved and the way he played at his peak, I think very few players compare.
Okay, very quickly, couple of tips, couple of player from history that you followed in the past.
Well, I have nothing too much to add to what Fabiano said in terms of what this means for American chess and all of that. I'm not really the person to have idols. I admire what people can do, not necessarily the people themselves. And I would say, keeping that in mind, I would say my favorite player from the past is probably myself, like 3-4 years ago. And then...
So what, kind of Magnus aged 23, is that on the app?
Yeah, 23.
Yeah. That's the prime.
Yeah.
Okay, check it on the app. Okay, very quickly, Ian.
Ian Rogers, not sure who I'm working for at the moment. So, a question to Magnus, do you think you'll ever be able to emulate your idol?
Very good.
No, he won his first game in Game 5 of the World Championship, so that ship has sailed.
Okay, very good. Let me see. Anatol.
One more question about the game today. Fabiano said that Queen C4 maybe was already a new move, but after that I had the feeling, Magnus, that you were playing pretty quickly, and I wondered whether you were still remembering some analysis or whether you found moves like Queen A5 so quickly on the board.
Reveal all, I think, is the question.
I mean, I cannot comment too much on that. So obviously the move B4 wasn't new to me. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Yes, please. If we get a mic over here, please.
Question to Magnus from VG Norway. Have you seen the video now?
Okay, so I should explain that there was a video posted by the St. Louis Chess Club which was taken down rather swiftly that may or may not reveal something. But anyway, Magnus, have you seen the video?
No, actually I haven't. I would say my answer stays the same, that I haven't seen it, but I'm aware of its contents. I've been made aware of its contents by people who I, for some reason, trust.
Okay, the players, of course, are playing again tomorrow, and I'm sure they want to get some dinner. So actually, I'm going to wrap things up there. So thank you very much for attending, and thank you most of all to the players.
Well, as the match is heating up, the press conferences are becoming more and more entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic words by Magnus.
His favorite player himself 4 years ago.
Yeah.
23-year-old Magnus Carlsen, and he cannot really imitate the 23-year-old Magnus as he won his Game 5, but Magnus couldn't do that today. Wow.
Yeah, kind of a quite unexpected answer, I must say.
But you saw him in the end of the conference smiling. I think it was still of that, like, oh, I really said that.
Certainly, there's great mood at the press conferences, which we love, that the players are in cheerful mood and they are willing to let things out, be on a more entertaining side than just keeping every information to themselves. So, of course, they cannot really share confidential information such as the preparation with us, but at least they are there to make some jokes, give advice, and reveal their role models. This has been Game 5, and we are going to be back tomorrow for Game 6. Just a reminder, Game 6 and Game 7 are both a white color for Magnus Carlsen, and we shall see if he can take advantage of that fact, plus the supposedly confidential information from the video that was released from Fabiano's training camp. Thank you so much for joining us, Noel. And Judith, once again, great analysis. You guessed all the moves, including G4. Thanks to our lovely live audience as well and our online audience. For those of you who are here, just a reminder, Ms. Judith Polgar is not afraid of selfies. See you, everyone, tomorrow.
Bye.